Chapter 1125. As long as one was angered, this person would reveal his flaws. At this moment, Qin Sheng wanted to anger Gu Jiani so that Gu Jiani could give him a chance. Besides, Gu Jiani dared to threaten him last time, but at that time he was Li Xiang and did not dare to fall out with Gu Jiani. But today he was Qin Sheng. What was there to be afraid of? Regarding the cause of his brother's death, this was Gu Jiani's sore spot. Qin Sheng was rubbing salt on his wound. Whether his brother died in his hands or not, only he himself knew. Even if the outside world said that he killed his brother, Gu Jiani was too lazy to explain anything. However, until now, no one dared to say this to his face. This young man in front of him was the first one. How could Gu Jiani not be angry? This was Gu Jiani's villa. As soon as he gave the order, several bodyguards rushed out and surrounded Qin Sheng. It seemed that as long as Gu Jiani nodded, these people would rush up and tear Qin Sheng into pieces in an instant. Qin Sheng was not moved. He smiled and said, "Uncle Gu, what do you mean? You want to fight because of a disagreement? You can do it, but I can't. Li Xiang, don't challenge my bottom line. Even if you're Cici's boyfriend, I will make you pay." Gu Jiani stared at Qin Sheng and said angrily. Qin Sheng looked at these 3 or 4 bodyguards and did not take them seriously at all. Gu Jiani was not a super big shot who had some peerless masters protecting him. He was just a slightly rich tycoon. Even if he had bodyguards, it would not be a big deal. After all, the Gu family was not a big family that had lasted for 2 or 3 generations. Otherwise, why would Gu Jiani need to rely on the young godfather Ma? So Qin Sheng said disapprovingly, "How to pay? Just based on them?" Before he finished his words, Qin Sheng did not give Gu Jiani any chance to ease the atmosphere. He directly rushed to the bodyguard on the left. Qin Sheng's speed was very fast. He did not give the bodyguard any chance to react at all. Even a lion would use all its strength to catch a rabbit. What he needed was this kind of deterrence. Therefore, before the bodyguard could react, he had already been kicked in the chest by Qin Sheng and was sent flying. This scene was really shocking and very visually impactful. Gu Jiani was stunned. He did not expect Qin Sheng to take the initiative. The other 3 bodyguards were also shocked, but at this time, Qin Sheng had already rushed to the bodyguard next door. The bodyguard reacted in a hurry and was ready to fight back, but his arm was directly grabbed by Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng conveniently threw the bodyguard over his shoulder and smashed him to the ground. Even the floor tiles were smashed. It could be seen how strong Qin Sheng was. Li Xiang might have scruples when he did things, but Qin Sheng did not need to. He was ready to deal with the other 2 bodyguards in one go, but the 2 bodyguards had already subconsciously retreated. At this moment, Gu Jiani suddenly shouted, "Who the hell are you?" The 2 bodyguards who were about to make a move also stopped because of Gu Jiani's words. They could only stare at Qin Sheng angrily, but did not dare to say anything. Qin Sheng came to his senses and looked at Gu Jiani. "Uncle Gu, I'm Li Xiang, Gu Xining's boyfriend. Aren't you going to take me down? What do you want?" How could Gu Jiani accept that? He continued to ask. Qin Sheng laughed and said, "I don't want anything. I just want justice for Gu Xining." "Li Xiang, don't be too arrogant." Gu Jiani was also a big boss. He did not expect that he would be suppressed by a young man, which made him very angry, really angry. Qin Sheng stared at Gu Jiani arrogantly and said, "What can you do? Kill me? Haha, I'll wait." After saying that, Qin Sheng was ready to turn around and leave. Today, he came to declare war on Gu Jiani. He did not want this matter to drag on for too long. After all, he had more important things to do, and he could not stay in Chengdu for long. "Li Xiang," Gu Jiani scolded. Qin Sheng sneered and said, "What? You want to keep me? With just a few of you? Not enough. Far from enough." After saying that, Qin Sheng ignored Gu Jiani and continued to walk forward. The 2 bodyguards did not dare to stop Qin Sheng at all. After all, they knew that they were no match for Qin Sheng. Besides, the big boss did not ask them to stop Qin Sheng. Why should they ask for trouble? After all, the 2 brothers were a lesson. Therefore, Qin Sheng left just like that. Gu Jiani, who was so angry that he was about to vomit blood, stayed where he was. Gu Jiani did not say anything. He did not want to say anything. He must regain his face today. Gu Jiani turned around and walked directly into the study. Then he took out his mobile phone and dialed that number. After the phone was connected, Gu Jiani did not have time to say hello. He said directly, "I want the young man named Li Xiang's life at any cost." There was a long silence on the other side. He did not say anything and directly hung up the phone. On the road outside the villa, Gu Xining sat in the Ferrari absent-mindedly. She looked at the direction of the villa every few seconds. She was afraid that Li Xiang would have an accident here. After all, her uncle was not an ordinary person. In this way, Gu Xining waited for 20 minutes. It was so long that she was about to go crazy. To be honest, she really did not want Li Xiang to get involved in her family's affairs. However, Li Xiang insisted on taking care of this matter. She had no way to persuade him. Although she knew that Li Xiang did not have this ability, she did not know why she had an inexplicable sense of trust in him. Just when Li Xiang went into the villa, her mother also called him. She also hoped that Li Xiang would not get involved in this matter. They would handle it well. She only hoped that Li Xiang would be in a good relationship with her. At this time, Gu Xining finally saw Li Xiang coming out of the car. She hurriedly got out of the car and ran to him. "Li Xiang, are you okay?" Seeing that Gu Xining cared about him so much, Qin Sheng was more or less touched. After all, this kind of woman should be loved. It was a pity that she met him. "What can happen to me? I just chatted with my uncle for a while, and we had a good time," Qin Sheng said casually. Gu Xining looked confused. She stared at Qin Sheng with her big watery eyes, as if saying, "Do you think I will believe you?" Qin Sheng hurriedly pulled Gu Xining and said, "All right, don't think too much. Let's go. It's so hot outside. Let's go back first." Gu Xining got in the car doubtfully. She wondered what Li Xiang and her uncle had talked about on Earth. On the way back, Qin Sheng still drove. He had nothing to do at this time, and it was so hot outside. Gu Xining wanted to go home and change clothes. She was going to attend a business dinner in the evening. Qin Sheng accompanied her home first. Because Gu Xining did not know that he had resigned from the bar, Li Xiang planned to find time to meet Song Ryu secretly. After all, she was his fiancée. On the way home, Qin Sheng said deliberately, "Cici, I've been dreaming a lot recently. I've been dreaming a lot lately, and I always think of some strange things." "What do you mean? Are you remembering those things in the past?" Gu Xining asked eagerly. Qin Sheng played dumb and said, "Maybe. After all, I lost my memory. Maybe those things really happened in the past." Gu Xining asked curiously, "What are they? Tell me." Qin Sheng did not continue the topic. Instead, he murmured to himself, "Cici, if I remember those things in the past one day, if I have a wife and children, if I have to leave Chengdu, will you be sad?" Qin Sheng's question directly made Gu Xining speechless. At Li Xiang's age, if he really lost his memory, it was normal for him to have a wife and children. If he really remembered those things in the past, he would definitely return to his previous life. What about her? Gu Xining had not thought about these things. "In fact, I'm also very curious about what kind of person you were in the past and what kind of life you had," Gu Xining said lightly. "If you really have a wife and children, I'll be your mistress. Will you be happy to have such a beautiful woman as your mistress?" Qin Sheng was somewhat surprised by this sentence. He laughed and said, "Stop it. Even if you dare to be my mistress, I dare not accept you." At this time, Gu Xining was silent. She asked slowly, "If that day really comes, what do you want me to do?" Because Gu Xining found that she had been deliberately fooling around at the beginning. She wanted to find something to kill time and divert her attention. But now she seemed to like Li Xiang unconsciously. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and said, "I want you to return to your original life." This was Qin Sheng's most sincere thought. When he was Li Xiang, he kind of liked Gu Xining. Who wouldn't like such a beautiful woman? However, he was already Qin Sheng now. These thoughts had to be cut off in the bud. Otherwise, it would be Gu Xining who would be sad in the end. When Gu Xining heard Li Xiang's words, she was completely silent. On the way, Gu Xining did not speak. She had been staring out of the window in a daze. Qin Sheng did not know what she was thinking about. When they arrived at the gate of the community where Gu Xining lived, Qin Sheng directly left after saying hello. He had originally wanted to talk with Gu Xining about other things. Seeing that Gu Xining seemed to be in a bad mood, He gave up. It was already afternoon. Qin Sheng took a taxi alone and was ready to go back to the bookstore. Although he knew that Lao Chong was following him, Lao Chong also said that someone was following them. Qin Sheng did not know who it was, so he did not want to expose Lao Chong. On the way back to the bookstore, Qin Sheng was ready to contact Song Ruyu. He did not know where Song Ruyu was at this time. Since Song Ruyu had come to Chengdu, Qin Sheng had to accompany his fiancée to go shopping. This was also his duty. As for those who were following him, it was very easy for him to get rid of those who were following him in such a big city. He did not have a GPS with him. However, before Qin Sheng had time to contact Song Ruyu, the boss of Jinzhou called Qin Sheng. The boss of Jinzhou called Qin Sheng, which made Qin Sheng feel a little surprised. Could it be that there was news from that side? It should not be so fast, right? After Qin Sheng answered the phone, as expected, Master Chen wanted to see him. Qin Sheng felt it was interesting. Chapter 1126. Qin Sheng felt that Chengdu was quite interesting. There were too many exchanges of benefits and schemes in such a big city. How could Master Zhao monopolize it? More importantly, this Master Zhao was not only very powerful in Chengdu, but also in Sichuan and Chongqing. These big shots in Sichuan and Chongqing all followed him. However, Qin Sheng thought about it later and felt that this Master Zhao was quite intelligent because he knew how to weigh the pros and cons. Why? Because he retired when he was in the limelight, especially when he was so smart at such a young age. How could people not admire him? By doing this, not only could he ensure his benefits, he could also not be so high profile. After all, a tall tree attracts the wind, and the bird that stands out will be shot. Moreover, Sichuan and Chongqing were very chaotic back then, and many people paid attention to it. At the same time, he held great power behind the scenes. Qin Sheng didn't know if these big shots in Sichuan and Chongqing still listened to Master Zhao, but he was sure that Master Zhao's words at least had some weight. These big shots definitely wouldn't dare to mess around. They all had their own line. In this way, not only did they ensure their benefits, but they also set rules and bottom lines. Most importantly, they could satisfy some big shots. After all, stability was more important than anything else. As for this Master Chen today, he was definitely a trusted person since he was placed in Chengdu by Master Zhao. Qin Sheng crossed the golden pillar and saw Yukai. After crossing Yukai, he wanted to see this Master Chen. He wanted to know who was more powerful between this Master Chen and the master mob behind Gu Jinni. Qin Sheng had just returned to the entrance of the bookstore when he saw an expensive Bentley parked in front of the bookstore. However, the people in the car didn't get out. They just waited quietly in the car for Qin Sheng. Aning had been sitting at the door of the bookstore, staring at these people carefully. She didn't know what these people wanted to do, but she knew that these people must have come to find Brother Li Xiang. Brother Li Xiang had been in contact with some shady people recently. She really didn't know what her aunt was thinking. She didn't control Brother Li Xiang well. Before Qin Sheng got close, Yukai got out of the car. Li Xiang, I'm here to pick you up. Master Chen is already waiting for you. Qin Sheng didn't say anything. He gestured for him to go over and say hello to Aning before coming over. Yukai nodded in agreement and then got in the car to wait for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng walked to Aning and said, "Don't worry. Nobody can bully your brother Li Xiang now. Aunt knows what I'm doing, so don't worry. Go home early." Aning pouted and did not say anything. She could only tell Qin Sheng to be careful. After Qin Sheng got in the car, Yukai took him directly to the place where Master Chen was. Qin Sheng teased, "It's really different to be a boss. He can even drive a Bentley. I'm really envious. When can I drive such a luxury car?" At that time, the girl in the passenger seat will change every day. "Li Xiang, we're doing proper business. It's not as bad as you think. However, if you follow Master Chen, luxurious cars, mansions, and beautiful women are nothing. You can have whatever you want," Yukai said cynically. When Master Chen had decided to see Li Xiang, his attitude toward Li Xiang had changed. At least before Master Chen had seen Li Xiang, he would be very polite to Li Xiang. After all, if Li Xiang followed Master Chen, who knew what level he would reach in the future, having an ally was more important than anything. Moreover, he was the one who introduced Li Xiang to Master Chen. However, Yukai was a little confused. He had told Master Chun about Li Xiang's situation, but Master Chun still wanted to see Li Xiang. This was interesting. Qin Sheng did not take these things seriously. In the past, Li Xiang did not care about these things. He only thought about them occasionally. Now he did not need these things, because what he had was beyond Yukai's imagination. Thanks to you. I didn't expect you to be so important to Master Chun. It's only been a short time, and Master Chun wants to see me, Qin Sheng said half-jokingly. Yukai laughed and said, I've been following Master Chun for several years. If I don't have this ability, then you're looking down on me. But the most important thing is not me, but Master Chun loves talents. You have this ability, so Master Chun is naturally willing to be your scout. However, whether you can follow Master Chun or not, we'll talk about it after seeing him. Qin Sheng smiled and nodded. Of course I know, but no matter what, I'll remember your kindness. Don't be so polite, Yukai said casually. If Li Xiang could really follow Master Chun, Li Xiang would naturally take him seriously in the future. If Master Chun did not like Li Xiang's kindness was nothing to him. Was it worth 2 cents? Yukai was so realistic. Who asked this world to be so realistic? On the way, Yukai originally wanted to get close to Qin Sheng. The most important thing was to know more about Qin Sheng. However, Qin Sheng did not give him any chance at all. He just brushed him off casually. After all, he had nothing to talk to Yukai. He could only talk to people like Master Chun. In the end, Yukai gave up. He did not think that Qin Sheng was too arrogant. Maybe he thought that all powerful people were like this. The place Yukai wanted to take Qin Sheng to was a private clubhouse near Dufu Cottage. Frankly speaking, it was a place where Master Chun entertained his friends. Usually, it was not open to the public. Only Master Chin's friends and a few trusted subordinates were qualified to come here. The private clubhouse was close to the lakeside of Huashi Park. There was no special signboard at the entrance. There were only a few security guards standing guard 24 hours a day at the entrance of the private clubhouse, forbidding tourists or other people from entering. When Yukai's Bentley drove in, they naturally let him in. After all, they all knew Yukai. The Bentley drove all the way to the building of the private clubhouse. Yukai and Qin Sheng got out at the same time. After getting out of the car, Yukai smiled and said, This is it. The private clubhouse was decorated very luxuriously. The antique style blended in with the rest of the buildings in the park. However, Qin Sheng had been to too many high-end occasions. This kind of place was nothing special. There was nothing to be surprised about. Seeing that Li Xiang was so calm, Yukai could not help but admire Li Xiang. He was indeed experienced. There was already a manager waiting for them at the entrance. He took them to a private room on the 2nd floor near the lake. The name of the private room was Du Fu Cottage. 2 seemingly ordinary men stood at the door. However, from their eyes and aura, one could tell that they were definitely not ordinary people. They directly blocked Qin Sheng and Yukai's way and wanted to search Qin Sheng at the same time. Yukai smiled and said, It's the rule. Qin Sheng did not refuse and let nature take its course. After the search, Qin Sheng was ready to go in. At this time, Yukai said, I won't go in. You can chat with Master Chun. I'll wait for you outside. Qin Sheng thought about it and did not have stage fright. This kind of small scene was not enough to make him nervous. He smiled, turned around, and directly pushed the door open. When he pushed open the textured, pure copper door of the private room, he only saw a man in a short-sleeved shirt and glasses sitting in the huge private room. The private room could be said to be magnificent. One could overlook the entire lake of Huashi Park. However, this man, whose age could not be seen, was not in the mood to pay attention to this at the moment. He lowered his head and was eating. The table in the private room was very big. However, at this moment, there was only one man. In front of the man were 4 dishes with different tastes. The meat and vegetables were very suitable. However, it did not look like Sichuan cuisine. It was more like Shandong cuisine. He held a bowl of rice and ate slowly. He did not even raise his head. When Qin Sheng came in, he just said in a light tone, Sit. Qin Sheng did not stand on ceremony. He sat directly in front of the man and looked at him across the table. He just stared at the man eating. Anyway, as long as he did not feel restrained, it would be others who felt restrained. Have you eaten? If not, let the waiter get the menu. Maybe because he felt Qin Sheng's gaze, the man thought that Qin Sheng had not eaten, so he asked politely. Qin Sheng said lightly, yes. The man did not say anything and just lowered his head to continue eating. Qin Sheng looked at the man in front of him with interest. He was the Master Chun that Yu Kai and many people talked about. After observing for a few seconds, he found that this Master Chun was quite young, about 35 or 36 years old. He heard that Master Ma was also quite young. It seemed that they were of the same generation, but he did not know who was more powerful. I heard that you offended Gu Jiani. At this time, Master Chun was finally full. He put down the bowl in his hand and looked at Qin Sheng. He was indeed very young and took good care of himself. He had a very strong aura. It was a pity that he could not suppress Qin Sheng today. It seems that Master Chun knows everything. Qin Sheng shook his head and said. Master Chun said seriously, I also know that you offended Gu Jiani. Oma wants to kill you now. Aren't you afraid? Qin Sheng did not expect that it would be so fast. It seemed that he had really offended Gu Jiani today, so that Master Ma, who was behind Gu Jiani, took action. However, Qin Sheng did not care. He said disapprovingly, afraid? Why not? I am here to see Master Chun. I understand. You tried so hard to see me, so that I could protect you? Master Chun suddenly laughed. He could not help but feel that the young man in front of him was very interesting and a little mysterious. Because since the beginning when he saw him, he seemed to not feel nervous or pressured. He had been very relaxed and casual. If he had not seen the world, he would not have been like this. Qin Sheng laughed and said, You can say that. Master Chun, just take it as that. Master Chun slowly stood up and lit a cigarette. Then how do you know that I will protect you? After all, it is the first time we meet. Moreover, although I have some conflict with Old Ma, we have been brothers for so many years. How could I offend Old Ma because of you? When Qin Sheng heard Master Chun say that although he had some conflicts with Old Ma, he suddenly understood a lot of things. This also explained why Master Chun still chose to see him even after knowing everything. That was, the conflict between Master Chun and Master Ma was not shallow. I didn't think so much. Even without Master Chun, I will still offend Gu Jiani and Master Ma. It doesn't matter. Qin Sheng shrugged and said. Master Chun laughed and said, Where does your confidence come from? Master Chun, I can fight. I can fight 10 people at once. Why should I be afraid of them? Qin Sheng said deliberately. Master Chun shook his head and said, Do you think I will believe you? Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, If Master Chun doesn't believe me, there is nothing I can do. At this time, Master Chun walked towards Qin Sheng unhurriedly. He knocked on the chair as he walked and stared at Qin Sheng, as if he wanted to see through Qin Sheng. When he walked in front of Qin Sheng, Master Chun suddenly asked, Who on earth are you? Chapter 11:27. Master Chun didn't rely on luck to get to where he was today. If he didn't even have the ability to judge people, the grass on his grave would have been several meters tall. Since the young man, named Li Xiong, walked into the box, he had been quietly looking at him. Did he really think that he was just lowering his head to eat? Obviously, it was not that simple. Sometimes, you didn't need to use your eyes to judge a person. When he saw this young man, he felt that this young man was not simple. It was no wonder that Yu Kai would recommend him to him. This young man had a familiar aura, and his every move made him feel like he was dealing with a big shot. He was sure that this young man had been through a lot, or he wouldn't have such an aura. If it was an ordinary young man, he would have been nervous when he saw him. Even if he pretended to be calm, he would show his flaws. However, this young man didn't. Therefore, Master Chun naturally doubted his identity. Qin Sheng had guessed long ago that Master Chun would probably ask him about his identity. Even he himself felt that if he were Master Chun, he would definitely guess his identity. After all, everything that he had done was totally unlike what a person of the same age should have. Qin Sheng smiled. Master Chun, haven't you investigated my identity clearly? Master Chun was silent for a while and continued. Then tell me, what did you do before you came to Chengdu? Before coming to Chengdu, I lived in a small town on the border of Sichuan and Tibet for a few years. When I was young, I also spent a few years in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. I did a lot of things with a few big shots. Later, I got used to many things and left. Qin Sheng said half-truthfully. Master Chen said thoughtfully, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai? Which big shots? Master Chen, you don't have to tell me this, right? You should know better than me why. Qin Sheng laughed and said, if I tell you clearly, you'll find out my background when you investigate it. How can I play? Master Chen thought that Qin Sheng didn't want to have any contact with the past, or maybe he had too many enemies. These are the rules of Jianghu. He asked, then why did you come to Chengdu again? Qin Sheng said honestly, I'm tired of the dull life. I don't want to go back to the place I used to live, so I can only choose the nearby Chengdu. I didn't do it deliberately. Then I got involved in the affairs of the Gu family inexplicably. I want to help Gu Xining. That girl is very nice to me. Why are you looking for me again? Master Chen was determined to get to the bottom of it. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, didn't Master Chen say it just now? I need Master Chen to protect me. However, it was a coincidence that I had the chance. They said that Master Chen was even more powerful than Godfather Ma, so I gave it a try. I didn't expect to see Master Chen in person. Master Chen sat beside Qin Sheng casually and said, if I don't help you, what will you do? Qin Sheng thought for a while and said, if Master Chen doesn't help me and they are aggressive, I can only solve the problem in my own way. At worst, I can find a place to hide again. I understand, Master Chen said with a smile. At this time, Master Chen said again, actually, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal for me to protect you. Even if old Ma doesn't agree, I can protect you. However, don't get involved in the affairs of the Gu family. Otherwise, I definitely can't protect you. After all, the price is too high and I won't get any benefits. Qin Sheng smiled and said, I understand. Just wait for my news. Master Chen waved his hand and said. Qin Sheng quickly stood up and said, thank you, Master Chen. After I help you, you can stay by my side and work for me. Master Chen finally decided. Otherwise, there was no need for him to help Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng didn't have any opinion on this. He just wanted to use Master Chen to test Godfather Ma and see what else he could do. Of course, this was just a show. After talking about these things, Qin Sheng walked out of the private club. Yukai had been waiting for him outside. When he saw Qin Sheng, Yukai couldn't wait and said, Li Xiang, how was it? What did Master Chen say? Brother Yu, I hope you can take care of me in the future, Qin Sheng said indifferently. Hearing this, Yukai understood that Master Chen had agreed. He quickly said, brother, not bad. Work hard with Master Chen in the future. Let's go out and celebrate with you tonight. Qin Sheng refused politely. Another day. I have something to do tonight. Another day is fine. Yukai didn't insist. Therefore, Qin Sheng left Hua Shi Park in this way. An hour later, Qin Sheng was already enjoying delicious food with Song Ruyu at a food stall at the entrance of Niyashiku. In order to see Song Ruyu, he went through a lot of trouble and returned 2 taxis. Zhou, he didn't disturb them. He sat not far away and ordered a few dishes alone. After all, barbecue was better than dog food. After hearing Song Ruyu talking about this sister, Qin Sheng was a little curious and asked, which sister? Why haven't I heard of her? Song Ruyu ate the roasted corn and said with a chuckle, you definitely don't know. This sister has been married to Chengdu for several years. But if you go back and ask about her, you will know her story. Qin Sheng asked with interest, oh, this sister is from Beijing. No wonder you said that she can help you with this matter. It's not her, but her husband. Song Ruyu smiled and helped Qin Sheng wipe the oil stains at the corners of his mouth. Qin Sheng was very curious. Who is her husband? Is he in politics in Sichuan? In Qin Sheng's understanding, this sister's identity and background were definitely not simple. From Song Ruyu's words, he could also tell that this sister's husband was also not simple. Obviously, it was a marriage between 2 powerful families, which meant that this sister's husband was very likely to be in politics and might be in a high position now. Song Ruyu deliberately kept Qin Sheng guessing. I won't tell you now. You will know tomorrow. Brother-in-law will go back to Chengdu tomorrow and then invite us to dinner. You will understand when you see him. Qin Sheng did not ask further. He replied, okay, then I will tell you when I see him. After a while, Song Ryu suddenly lowered her voice and said, "Uncle called me and said that Elder Long's time is running out. He is about to die." After hearing the news, Qin Sheng frowned and said, "It's too easy for him to die like this." But Elder Long still doesn't intend to let the Qin family go. "You have to leave Qingdu as soon as possible. They already know that you are in Qingdu and may do something bad to you," Song Ryu said with a frown. She was most worried about Qin Sheng's safety. Nothing could happen to him. Qin Sheng fell into silence. It seemed that he had to solve the matter of the Gu family as soon as possible. However, with Zhou Yi and his aunt in Qingdu, who could do anything to him? If he took advantage of the situation, he might gain something, wouldn't he? Thinking of this, Qin Sheng could not help but start to calculate. Just take it as the interest of these 3 years. After a long time, Qin Sheng came to his senses. Song Ryu had been looking at him silently. At this time, Qin Sheng asked again, "Where is my uncle? Why doesn't he come out to see me? He has already returned to Beijing. He still needs to worry about my uncle's affairs," Song Ryu explained truthfully. "Oh, I see." Qin Sheng did not say anything. His uncle had been hiding from the world for so many years, and it was time for him to shoulder everything for the Qin family. Qin Sheng continued to eat with Song Ryu and did not talk about these annoying things anymore. They talked about trivial family affairs, such as who got married and who had children in the past 3 years, and so on. In the evening, Qin Sheng did not go home. Of course, he accompanied Song Ryu. All the time in Qingdu belonged to Song Ryu. In an alley in Beijing at night, 2 middle-aged men were also sitting at a barbecue stall, drinking yin jing and playing with skewers. The barbecue stall in the alley was ordinary, and there were not many people at the table, but it was more smoky. Sitting here, they could overlook the bustling Guomao CBD not far away. The middle-aged man in a polo shirt frowned and said, "Aren't we afraid of being killed by the old man?" He looked gentle and elegant. The middle-aged man opposite him, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, big pants, and slippers, looked more like a Jianghu man. He laughed and said, "How many days can the old man hold on? We still have to think about the future. We can't always be against the Qin family, the Zhu family, and the Song family. If the old man dies, many of our resources will disappear. Besides, who can afford to offend the Zhu family now?" The gentle middle-aged man laughed and said, "That's right. That's why I didn't fight for it this time." The middle-aged man in big pants sneered and said, "Me too. Whoever wants to sit in this position can sit in it. I don't want to be the old man's scapegoat. I guess I will have to leave with the old man." The gentle middle-aged man continued, "I heard that Qin Sheng is in Qingdu. Lao he has already brought people there." The middle-aged man in big pants laughed and said, "If he wants this position, let him fight for it. When something happens to him, the circle will be ours." The gentle middle-aged man immediately understood what was going on. He chuckled and said, "What do you mean?" The middle-aged man in big pants said in a deep voice, "As long as you understand." The two sides hit it off immediately. They were not in cahoots with each other. They just had a common goal. As for Lao He was just a sacrifice. They could treat him as a gift to the Qin family. In this way, their relationship with the Qin family could also be eased. Chapter 1128. In the morning, when Song Ryu and Qin Sheng woke up, it was raining heavily, with lightning flashing and thunder rumbling. The weather was so gloomy that it seemed like the end of the world, which affected most people's mood. Qingdu was always like this in summer. Heavy rain always came unexpectedly. Therefore, people always said that if you could see the shielding snow in autumn today, you could probably see the ship of Wu tomorrow. Although it was a joke, it was also true. Qin Sheng and Song Ryu were not in a hurry to get up. They just lay on the bed and watched the heavy rain outside. Song Ryu lay comfortably in Qin Sheng's arms. During the 3 years when Qin Sheng was away, every time it rained, she would want to have a warm embrace for her to lean on. People tended to be sad and sentimental when it rained. Qin Sheng was bored and played with Song Ryu's hair. Of course, he would play with other parts of her body occasionally. However, Song Ryu would pout coquettishly. Qin Sheng was afraid that his brain would be occupied by the enemy, so he dared not to go too far. After all, it was a situation where he hurt himself to hurt the enemy. Lin Su is going back, Song Ryu suddenly said without warning. Qin Sheng was stunned subconsciously. Since they had reunited, they seemed to have deliberately avoided these topics to avoid embarrassment or other unpleasantness. Qin Sheng did not say anything. He really did not know what to say. Who knew what had happened in the past 3 years? Song Ryu continued. Yuan Yuan will also come back. Yuan Yuan? Oh, is Yuan Yuan? Qin Sheng asked confusedly. Song Ryu turned around and glanced at Qin Sheng. After making sure that he was not playing dumb, she said, Yuan Yuan is your daughter. There was a loud bang. Qin Sheng's mind went blank. He was totally confused. For a moment, he did not know what to say, nor did he dare to say anything. The air froze at this moment, and the atmosphere gradually became awkward. He did not know how Song Ryu knew about this, nor did he know when she found out. Similarly, Qin Sheng did not know Song Ryu's attitude towards this. Why did she say these words at this time? What was her mentality when she said these words? However, there seemed to be a voice in Qin Sheng's heart saying, it turns out that she is a daughter. A daughter is good, a father's sweet little cotton jacket. In the end, Song Ryu broke the deadlock. Song Ryu said calmly, Lin Su and I have been contacting each other for the past 3 years since you disappeared. I already knew about Yuan Yuan's existence in the first year. I didn't investigate you on purpose. Eldest uncle told me about it. He asked me to make a choice. I'm sorry. I've made you suffer, Qin Sheng said guiltily. Song Ryu said meaningfully, there's nothing to feel aggrieved about. If you're really gone, Yuan Yuan will be your only existence in this world. What can I do even if I don't accept her? Of course, not only do I, you know Lin Su and Yuan Yuan, Zhou Wanqing from Shanghai, and your first girlfriend, Su Qin, who is far away in Xi'an. Qin Sheng had thought that the atmosphere had eased. However, the next second, Song Ryu revealed the shocking news. For a moment, he didn't know how to face Song Ryu, his fiancée, who had waited for him for 3 years. She was so outstanding and so proud. She was the life partner of many men in Sijio City, and a good wife and loving mother that many big families wanted to marry. In the end, Qin Sheng took advantage of her. So why should she suffer this grievance? Song Ryu asked calmly, what are you afraid of? Qin Sheng was not afraid. He just didn't know how to face Song Ryu. At this time, it seemed inappropriate for him to say anything. It seemed that he was not qualified to speak. Song Ryu looked at the drifting rain outside the window and said calmly, since I can wait for 3 years and come to Chengdu, I have already accepted these things. Otherwise, when you go back to Beijing, maybe my child can call you uncle. Was she really so generous? Which woman would be so generous? Moreover, she was such an outstanding and proud woman. However, sometimes, for the sake of many things, she had to take a step back. As for Qin Sheng, he could take the initiative to control the situation at any time. However, when facing Song Ryu, he was somewhat at a loss as to what to do. After a long silence, Song Ryu continued, you don't have to feel wronged or say anything. This is my choice. I don't need anyone's opinion. Just like in the past 3 years, I don't need their pity. Since he had known Song Ryu until now, it seemed that this was the first time Qin Sheng felt that Song Ryu was so powerful that he could not resist. Most of the time, this woman was as calm as water in front of him. However, when she was serious, Qin Sheng felt that even he was no match for her. Song Ryu said, half-jokingly, I've talked to Sister Qingyi these days. She said that if we look at it from another perspective, we should also be happy that the man we like is also liked by other excellent women. This means that we have a good taste. Now that I think about it, it seems to make sense. Hearing this, Qin Sheng didn't feel good. However, he also learned that Sister Qingyi's husband seemed to be the same kind of person as him, a womanizer. Song Ryu narrowed her eyes and said, I've seen Lin Su and Zhou Wanqing, but not Su Qin because I envy her. She really envied Su Qin, because Su Qin met Qin Sheng in his best years and accompanied him through the longest time of his life. How could she not envy him? However, there was something else that Song Ryu didn't say directly. It seemed that she shouldn't say it. She had said what should be said, but suddenly, Song Ryu wanted to say it. Of course, this was something that had to be said sooner or later. At this time, Song Ryu slowly stood up and said, I'm going to visit an elder at noon. I'll pick you up at the bookstore in the afternoon. Then we'll go to Mount Qingqing. Song Ryu, who had always been used to sleeping naked, was full of beauty at this time. However, Qingsheng was not in the mood to appreciate this beautiful scenery. He was only thinking about what Song Ryu had said. So, for the whole afternoon, Qingsheng stayed in the bookstore and stared blankly out of the window. Aning came up several times and saw that Qingsheng was absent-minded, which made her quite worried. She had to call her aunt, who had disappeared for another 2 days. Now, Qingsheng and his aunt were always away from the bookstore, leaving Aning to guard it alone. The most important thing was that the business of the bookstore was not good, which was really a headache. Aning sat downstairs and thought for a long time with her head leaning against Sichuan University. Finally, she thought of a very likely possibility. Her brother Li Xiang had fallen out of love. Thinking of this, Aning hurriedly ran over and said, Brother Li Xiang, have you been dumped by Gu Xining? She originally wanted to ask if Li Xianga and Gu Xining had broken up, but the words inexplicably became like this. Perhaps she had always felt that Li Xianga and Gu Xining were not suitable for each other. After all, Li Xianga was an old bachelor who had nothing, while Gu Xining was a fair, rich, and beautiful woman who had everything she wanted. The two of them were not in the same world at all. Therefore, it was normal for him to dump her after he got tired of her. Qingsheng had been feeling melancholy, wondering if Song Ryu wanted to have a showdown with him. But suddenly hearing Aning's inexplicable words, Qingsheng almost burst out laughing. He came to his senses and stared at Aning, saying, Aning, what are you thinking about in your little head every day? Aning felt that all men needed to save face. Maybe she was too direct, so she continued to say, Brother Li Xiang, I've already said that you and Gu Xining are not suitable for each other. How could she like you? But don't be sad. You will definitely meet a better one. I still have many classmates. Qingsheng really did not dare to continue talking with Aning, otherwise he might really be led astray by Aning, so he could only drive Aning away. After Aning left, she continued to think about how to comfort Brother Li Xiang. But in the afternoon, when a beauty who was more beautiful and elegant than Gu Xining appeared in the bookstore and asked for Brother Li Xiang by name, Aning felt that she might have thought wrong. Her brother Li Xiang might not be sad, but should be melancholy. Melancholy about what? Melancholy between this elegant beauty and Gu Xining, the fair, rich, and beautiful woman. Which one should he choose? In an instant, Aning decided that Qingsheng was a womanizer and a scumbag. If Qingsheng knew this, he would probably be a little dumbfounded. He could only say that Aning was really good at judging people. Your brother Li Xiang was really a scumbag. Chapter 1129. There were many beautiful women in Chengdu. Beautiful women often came to the bookstore, especially those artistic young women. However, Aning thought that they were not as beautiful as his aunt. Some women were just beautiful in appearance, while some were beautiful in temperament and charm. Such a woman was very rare. They could only be found by chance. They needed to experience a lot of things to precipitate. But today, this beauty was really on par with his aunt. Aning felt that this beauty could be on par with his aunt. Her temperament was very unique, a kind of temperament that Aning had never seen before. Her eyes revealed a kind of confidence, wisdom, and intellectuality. She was cold and had a smile on her face, but it gave people a natural sense of distance, as if it was difficult to integrate into her atmosphere. Yes, if Aning knew the family background of this elegant beauty in front of him, as well as the environment in which she worked, he would naturally understand all this. After all, she was Song Ryu. Song Ryu dressed very intelligently when she was at work. However, after coming to Chengdu, in order to be approachable, she dressed more casually. Most of the time, she wore a simple dress and flat shoes. Even so, it was difficult to hide her unique temperament. Wherever she went, she would be the focus. Seeing An Ning in a daze, Song Ryu chuckled and said, An Ning, is Li Xiang not here? Of course, she knew An Ning, as well as the story between An Ning, Qin Sheng, and her aunt. She also felt sorry for this girl. Fortunately, she met her aunt and Qin Sheng. Her life would be completely different in the future, so she was really lucky. In a vast sea of people, how many people could meet a benefactor who could easily change their life? An Ning was surprised and said, Do you know me? Song Ryu said honestly, I heard Li Xiang mention it. Hearing this, An Ning felt that the beautiful woman in front of her must have a close relationship with brother Li Xiang, which confirmed her idea that brother Li Xiang was a scumbag. An Ning didn't know what to talk with this beautiful woman, so she had to shout upstairs, Brother Li Xiang, a beautiful woman is looking for you. Song Ryu said playfully, It seems that there are many beautiful women looking for Li Xiang. An Ning originally wanted to say that it was good that she knew, but she thought it was better not to say too much. After all, it was brother Li Xiang's private affairs. At this time, Qin Sheng had already come down. Seeing Song Ryu find a place to sit, he quickly walked over and said, You are here. Isn't Auntie here? Song Ryu asked in confusion. Qin Sheng said casually, I haven't seen her for a few days. Who knows what she has been up to? On the other side, An Ning muttered in his heart, It seems that this beauty knows a lot. Brother Li Xiang, what else have you not told her? Previously, I thought that Gu Xining had dumped you, and I comforted you out of kindness, but now I think that you must have cheated on her. Poor beauty Gu Xining. How did you meet brother Li Xiang? Song Ryu didn't think too much about it. She nodded and said, Oh, maybe my aunt has something to deal with. Let's go. Brother-in-law is back. Qin Sheng thought for a while and said, Do you need to bring anything with me? I can't go there empty-handed, can I? No, thanks. I'm ready, Song Ryu said with a smile. Qin Sheng didn't need to worry about these trivial things. Qin Sheng nodded silently and said, Let's go then. Although Song Ryu and Qin Sheng's conversation was very ordinary, An Ning was extremely shocked after hearing it. What did it mean? Were they going to meet their parents? How did you guys develop so quickly? How come I didn't know anything about it? Who on earth was Gu Xining? Just when Qin Sheng was about to leave with Song Ryu, An Ning finally couldn't help but ask, Brother Li Xiang, won't you introduce her to us? An Ning's words were a little angry, but who asked her to be a little emotional now? Who asked the image of brother Li Xiang in her heart to completely collapse? It was not until then that Qin Sheng remembered that he had forgotten about this. He turned around unhurriedly and introduced, Song Ryu, my fiancé. Hearing this, An Ning's mind went blank instantly. She was so scared that she almost fainted. Song Ryu just smiled at An Ning and nodded. Her eyes seemed to be telling An Ning, Now you know everything, right? How could Song Ryu not know what An Ning was thinking? In this way, Song Ryu took Qin Sheng's arm and left the bookstore, leaving An Ning, who was confused in the wind and couldn't figure out what was going on. What was going on? Song Ryu showed up here without any scruples today, which showed that Qin Sheng's business in Chengdu was coming to an end. After all, his brother-in-law was the most powerful person in the underground world of Sichuan and Chongqing. On the way to Mount Qinsheng, Song Ryu said, half-jokingly, Does the girl named An Ning like you? Everyone likes me. Am I so popular? Qin Sheng said with a smile. Song Ryu asked in reply, What about Gu Xining? Oh, Qin Sheng was stunned and smiled awkwardly. Who asked him to be Li Xiang in the past? If he had known that he was Qin Sheng and had such a beautiful fiancée, as well as Lin Su and Qing Er, who were his confidants, waiting for him, he would not have had any contact with Gu Xining. Therefore, in order to repay this debt, he had to take the initiative to solve this problem for Gu Xining. Chang Baji, who was driving in the front, was serious. In fact, he was very happy in his heart. It seemed that only Song Ryu could deal with Qin Sheng. This was the third time that Qin Sheng had come to Mount Qinsheng. The first time was when he had traveled around. He had met Lin Su in Chengdu and walked around Mount Qinsheng with her. The second time was when he had come to Mount Qinsheng with Gu Xining. This was the third time that he had come here with Song Ryu today. Every time, he had been with a woman. Admittedly, he was quite popular with women. Of course, he was really fated to be in Chengdu. Before they had left Chengdu, they had found that there were cars following them. Chang Baji cleverly got rid of them. After all, he had done this kind of thing with Qin Sheng many times before. Therefore, when they arrived at Mount Qin Sheng, they had already gotten rid of them. Chang Baji kept driving until he stopped at the gate of a manor surrounded by iron railings. The gate of the manor looked very ordinary, with only one iron gate. At this time, the gate opened slowly. After confirming their identities, the security guard at the gate let them pass without any worries. After driving in, Qin Sheng found that there was still some distance from the manor. After walking along this road for hundreds of meters, they arrived at the Real front gate of the manor. At the gate, there were still security guards blocking them. Qin Sheng observed for a while and found that these security guards were not ordinary people. They were almost the same as the bodyguards of the Qin family. Qin Sheng couldn't help wondering how powerful this brother-in-law's background was. How could he have such a grand entrance? At first, he had guessed that this brother-in-law might be a big shot in the government, but now he had to eliminate this idea. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to have such a grand entrance. Could it be that he was a big shot in other fields, such as a business tycoon? All of a sudden, Qin Sheng recalled that when he had come to Mount Qinsheng with Gu Xining and Liangzhe last time, Liangzhe had said that there was a very mysterious manor in Mount Qinsheng. The owner of this manor was the big shot in the underground world of Sichuan and Chongqing. This big shot's name was Master Zhao. It seemed that Master Ma and Master Chun had started their business with Master Zhao. Could it be? Impossible. It couldn't be such a coincidence. Qin Sheng shook his head. However, he didn't ask Song Ruyu. Anyway, he would find out the answer soon. Finally, the Benz drove directly into the Real gate of the manor and stopped at the gate of the main building. At this time, Qin Sheng saw a young couple standing at the gate with 3 kids playing with each other. Looking from afar, the young couple seemed to be in their 30s. As for the 3 kids playing with each other, the older girl seemed to be 7 or 8 years old, the younger boy about 5 or 6 years old, and the younger girl about 3 or 4 years old. As for the young couple, the woman was very beautiful and elegant, which was very similar to Song Ruyu's. She was dressed intelligently and looked like a good wife and a loving mother. As for the man, he did not look special. He gave people a feeling that he was very approachable. He was playing with the children with a warm smile. In Qin Sheng's opinion, the man was not worthy of this beautiful woman. Qin Sheng didn't need to guess to know that the woman must be the sister that Song Ruyu had mentioned. She was from a big family in Sijiu City, and the man must be her husband. After the car stopped, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu got off at the same time. Song Ryu went straight to the young couple and greeted them with a smile. "Sister, brother-in-law, sorry to keep you waiting." The woman replied with a smile. "Ryu, why are you so polite? Is it because Qin Sheng is here today?" The man also said calmly, "Ryu, we meet again. The last time was last year, right? Brother-in-law, you are very mysterious. It's so difficult to see you." Song Ryu replied with a smile. The man laughed and said, "Now we meet, right?" Everyone burst into laughter at the same time. At this time, Qin Sheng and Chang Baji had already taken out the things they had prepared. It turned out that they were all gifts for the kids. No wonder he didn't need to worry about them. Qin Sheng walked over with the things and said, "Sister, brother-in-law, sorry to disturb you." The woman walked over slowly and said, "Qin Sheng, your sister often talked about you, but this is the first time I see you. You're more handsome than I thought. No wonder you can capture Ryu. I don't know how many people are envious of you." Qin Sheng was a little embarrassed by the compliment and said, "Sister, you are also very beautiful. Ryu is much less beautiful in front of you. So you're not afraid to go back and kneel on the washboard?" The woman said half-jokingly. At this time, the man took the initiative to reach out and said, "Qin Sheng, welcome to Chengdu. While I was in Beijing, I had dinner with your father several times. But at that time, you were not back yet. I didn't expect to see you in Chengdu. Brother-in-law, sorry to disturb you." Qin Sheng quietly looked at the man and replied. He always felt that the man's temperament was very special. It could be said that he was approachable, but there was a kind of indescribable feeling. In short, he was very natural and casual. The man withdrew his hand and said, You are welcome. At this time, the woman called several kids over and greeted them. Call them uncle and auntie. The man, who was quite delicate and a little strange, shouted, Mom, how can you call them uncle and auntie? You should call them brother and sister. Sister, you are so beautiful. You are even more beautiful than my mother. The older girl also came over and shouted. The girl was so beautiful. Her big, watery eyes seemed to be able to speak, which was really cute. The little girl was a little afraid of strangers. She hid behind the man and stared at Qin Sheng and Song Ruyu pitifully, which made Qin Sheng really want to pinch her pink face. To be honest, such a warm scene really made Qin Sheng envy. Subconsciously, Qin Sheng thought of his daughter, whom he had not met yet. He wondered what his daughter looked like. Isn't it also so cute? Thinking of this, Qin Sheng could not help but feel a little guilty. After all, he did not fulfill his responsibility as a father. Chapter 1130. My name is Zhao Mingshi. Song Ryu had told Qin Sheng that the name of this young woman, whose eyes were always shining, was Li Qingyi. She was born in a big family in Sijia City. Qin Sheng didn't guess which big family it was. After all, there were several big families with the surname Li in Sijia City, and he didn't know much about them. As for the name of his brother-in-law, he didn't know. However, Song Ryu said that they had 2 children, but Qin Sheng saw 3 children today, which made him a little confused. If there was a 4th child, Qin Sheng would be even more confused, because one of their children had been staying in the UK recently. His mother had taken him to travel in Europe. At this moment, the living room of Qingqing Villa was filled with joy and harmony, and the atmosphere was very warm. 3 children of different ages and personalities were playing there. Their laughter always brought all kinds of happiness to the adults, so that the adults felt that they were several years younger. Qin Sheng and Song Ryu chatted with the couple. Most of the time, it was the 2 women with similar temperaments who chatted with each other. The 2 men seemed to be a bit quiet. They only responded when someone asked them a few questions. After a while, the 2 men were a little bored. They looked at each other and went outside the villa to smoke. There was a tacit understanding between men. Qin Sheng didn't bring a cigarette with him. The man took the initiative to send him a small panda. He smoked secretly now, because the 3 children were watching him like a monitor 24 hours a day. At this time, he took the opportunity to smoke while the 3 children were playing inside. The smoking place was in a corner of the villa. If one didn't look for it carefully, he wouldn't be able to find it. Qin Sheng smiled and joked, Brother-in-law, your family status is not high. It seems that Sichuan men are all greedy. Hearing this, the man couldn't help laughing. He was always so calm, as if he had experienced too many vicissitudes and stories, which made his temperament not similar to that of his peers. He was a bit like an old man who had retired at 60 or 70 years old. The man couldn't help but sigh. When you get married and have children, you will know that men have the lowest status in the family. Sometimes, they may even be inferior to the family pets. Alas, it's so hard for men. Qin Sheng smiled and said, This is all love. I guess it will be the same in the future. In fact, women are nothing, but children are not easy to deal with. If they cry, I guess our hearts will probably melt. Yes, what I'm most afraid of is that they get sick. Seeing them in pain is more painful than being stabbed several times. So, you and Ryu should have a baby as soon as possible, the man said happily. He already knew some things, but he would not mention the things that should not be mentioned. After all, these were other people's private affairs. If he got too involved, it would only arouse disgust. Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. I haven't gotten married yet. You're not young anymore. It's time to get married, the man said with a smile. After regaining his memory, Qin Sheng had been thinking about this problem. He had made Song Ryu wait for 3 years, and the 3 families for such a long time. Qin Sheng knew it was time, and he already had time in his heart. Qin Sheng said faintly, If I'm not mistaken, it should be around New Year's Day. Maybe even earlier. Then I'll congratulate you and Ryu in advance, the man said sincerely. Qin Sheng said politely, Thank you, brother-in-law. Qin Sheng said, When will you go back to Beijing? The man asked thoughtfully. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, In a few days. I will go back after I finish my business in Chengdu. Ryu told me about your business. If you think it is troublesome, I will ask someone to deal with it. The man took the initiative to offer an olive branch. Qin Sheng was confused and guessed. Since Song Ryu told him, he obviously knew what it was. But he said that he would ask someone to deal with it. Was it really a coincidence? Qin Sheng finally couldn't help but ask, "Brother-in-law, what do you do?" "My name is Zhao Qiushi. They used to call me Master Zhao. Now I'm a nanny." The man smiled lightly. It seemed that he was joking, but it was so true. Hearing this self-introduction, Qin Sheng was stunned. It took him a long time to come to his senses. Sure enough, it was really a coincidence. Before Qin Sheng and the man called Zhao Qiushi, or Master Zhao, could continue their conversation, a little fairy suddenly rushed out from the corner and shouted unhappily, "Dad, why are you smoking again?" "I'm going to tell Andy." The man, who had been extremely mighty and domineering just now, almost dropped the cigarette in his hand when he heard this. He quickly put out the cigarette, and muttered in a low voice, "Your brother Qin Sheng wants to talk to me about something. Don't tell your aunt. How about a KFC meal?" Qin Sheng almost scolded. Was he going to be the scapegoat? 2 meals. The little fairy snorted. Zhao Qiushi didn't bargain anymore. He directly said, "Deal." Therefore, this short deal was reached quickly. When Zhao Qiushi left with Qin Sheng, the little fairy winked at him mischievously. It seemed that she had already guessed that they were smoking here. It also seemed that she was thanking brother Qin Sheng for the KFC. In the living room, at the invitation of Song Ruyu's sister, the little boy was playing the piano for her. The little girl was making trouble at the side. She didn't run away until the big sister came in. It seemed that the big sister was the most afraid of at home. This made Qin Sheng couldn't help but think of his sister. Since they really knew each other, the atmosphere at dinner was very harmonious. The 2 women were still chatting about trivial matters, while the 2 men started to drink, regretting that they had not met earlier. Qin Sheng knew about the ups and downs of this Master Zhao. He also knew that this Master Zhao had quite a lot of power in Suzhou City. After all, not everyone could marry that sister Cyan, and not everyone could become the uncrowned king of the local world in Sichuan and Chongqing. It was no wonder that he had said that he could handle it so easily just now, because in his eyes, the Gu family's matter was not a big deal at all. The so-called Master Ma, Master Chun, Master Wang, and Master Li meant nothing to him. Qin Sheng could not help but have a new plan. Qin Sheng didn't drink much because a few children came over and interrupted their drinking party. They had to change the date to drink to their heart's content next time. The adults were playing with the children. Qin Sheng spent more time playing with the little girl called Tuan Tuan. She was pink and cute, just like Tuan Tuan. Maybe she thought that she was very similar to the daughter she had never met, so she was quite close to her. When it was almost time, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu were ready to go back to the city. Zhao Qiushi and Li Qingyi didn't ask them to stay. After all, they had their own things to do. On the way back, Song Ryu said calmly, "Uncle called in the afternoon. He said that Master Long already knows that you are in Chengdu and has sent people to deal with you." Qin Sheng frowned and said, "This old thing is really persistent. But Master Long can't protect himself. This is just a last-ditch struggle. Don't worry about it. You can beat him at his own game," Song Ryu said meaningfully. That was because she and her first uncle had already discussed it. It was old Master Long who had leaked the news to them. Since old Master Long wanted to court death, they would beat him at his own game. In this way, Qin Sheng could seize the opportunity to return and speed up old Master Long's disappointment. Therefore, Song Ryu told him her plan. She wanted to go to the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan in Yibin. She would wait for the fish to take the bait there. In order to avoid the previous situation, they had prepared a perfect plan. Not only Chang Baji, but also Zhuang Zhou, another master of the Qin family, had been transferred to Chengdu. His aunt, who was already in Chengdu, was also there. It would be difficult for anyone to deal with the situation. Moreover, Song Ryu had asked her brother-in-law to help her. It could be said that everything was foolproof. Now that Qin Sheng knew that his brother-in-law was the famous Master Zhao in Sichuan and Chongqing, he also knew that the Gu family's business was coming to an end. He was ready to do something. After this trip to the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan and Yabin, he should go back to Beijing. It had been 3 years. He was finally going back. However, in order to avoid suspicion, Song Ryu asked Qin Sheng to take Gu Xining to the Sea of Bamboos in the south of Chuan, which made Qin Sheng's eyes wide open. He didn't expect Song Ryu to be so generous. Or was there something fishy going on? Therefore, Qin Sheng didn't dare to say yes at first. He stared at Song Ryu for a long time. Then Song Ryu stared at him and said, "What are you thinking about?" Qin Sheng stopped thinking. He didn't know, nor did he dare to ask. Anyway, on this trip to the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan, he had to keep a reasonable distance from Gu Xining. After all, Song Ryu was watching from behind. At the same time, he couldn't be suspected, which was a headache. It seemed that this was a journey of death. Chapter 1131. In Gu Xining's mansion in downtown Chengdu. At this moment, Gu Xining's mother and uncle were trying to persuade Gu Xining. They had completely compromised with Gu Jiani. Gu Jiani was under more and more pressure, and more people were trying to persuade them. After all, Gu Xining's uncle was not in Chengdu, and their family did not have enough connections to solve this problem. For the safety of Gu Xining and her daughter, they had to make such a decision. What's wrong with Li Xiang? He still doesn't answer the phone. Min Feng, Gu Xining's uncle, was a little annoyed. He and his sister had originally asked Li Xiang to meet today, hoping that Li Xiang would not interfere in this matter, so that there would not be any accidents. After all, they also knew Li Xiang's background, so they would not be able to help and would only bring more trouble. However, Li Xiang still did not answer the phone, which made Min Feng very angry. He was afraid that Li Xiang was not afraid of the tiger and would fight against Gu Jiani. Gu Xining hung up the phone. She did not know what she was doing, but she was also worried. Min Shu tried to ease the atmosphere. Maybe Li Xiang is busy today, or maybe he will come later. Sis, I'm still going to say the same thing. I won't interfere with Cici and Li Xiang's relationship, but Li Xiang shouldn't show off. You guys know better than anyone what kind of person Gu Jiani is, and Mr. Ma behind him is even worse. For your and Cici's safety, I have to persuade him, Min Feng said resolutely. At this time, Min Shu also echoed, Cici, your uncle is right. Although this is your father's business, for your safety, you have to persuade Li Xiang. We are not short of money now, and you could do other things with Li Xiang in the future. Why do you have to do this? Gu Xining knew that both her mother and uncle were thinking about her and Li Xiang. It was not easy for them to approve of Li Xiang. How could they let Li Xiang do whatever he wanted? Mom, I will persuade him, Gu Xining said with a frown. Min Feng was very unhappy as he said, Sister, I think we'd better not wait. If he really acts recklessly, I think Cici should be careful. To put it simply, Cici, you've been blinded by love. A man in his 30s has no house, no car, no money, no family background, and no ability. I really don't know what you see in him. Uncle, please stop, Gu Xining said, feeling wronged. Min Shu let out a long sigh and said, Cici, you've grown up. I won't persuade you about these things. But if you really get hurt one day, don't blame me for not stopping you today. Gu Xining nodded with red eyes and said, Mom, I know. I won't regret it. Seeing his niece like this, Min Feng also felt somewhat distressed. He said calmly, Cici, don't blame me for my harsh words. I did it for your sake. Who asked you to be so young? What you went through, we all went through when we were young. Someone will get hurt. After that, he said to Min Shu, Sister, let's go. Let Cici think about it. Qin Sheng and Song Ryu separated after returning to the downtown area. Song Ryu went to the hotel alone. Zhuang Zhou, Nangong, and the bodyguards of the Qin family would come to Chengdu tonight. She had to discuss other plans with them. Qin Sheng could only get off on the way and take a taxi home pitifully. The bookstore was closed at this time, so Qin Sheng had to go home and rest. Since he was going to meet Master Zhao today, he set his phone to silent in the afternoon. On the way back, his phone ran out of battery, but he didn't notice it at all. After all, no one had contacted him. When he returned to the gate of the community, he saw Gu Xining standing beside the Ferrari waiting for him. It had been raining from last night to this afternoon, so it was a little cold. Gu Xining was only wearing a dress, so she was a little cold and shivering. Qin Sheng didn't expect that Gu Xining would be waiting for him at the gate of the community. If anything happened, she could directly call him. When he took out his phone, he found that it had been turned off automatically. Qin Sheng walked over slowly, took off his coat, and was about to hand it to Gu Xining. Meanwhile, he was about to ask her why she was waiting for him here. Unexpectedly, Gu Xining was a little angry. She pushed Qin Sheng's arm away and asked angrily, "Why didn't you answer my call?" Qin Sheng didn't expect that Gu Xining would have such a bad temper. He was stunned for half a second before he explained, "I had something to do in the evening, so my phone was on silent. I didn't expect that it would turn off automatically when it ran out of battery." "What did you resign from the bar? Why didn't you tell me? Do you know how worried I was?" Gu Xining asked stubbornly. Qin Sheng finally understood and said, "I resigned 2 days ago. I'm sorry that I didn't tell you and made you wait for so long. Anyway, put on your coat first. Don't catch a cold. Do you know how worried I was about you?" Gu Xining continued to shout, "If something happened to you, what would I do?" Qin Sheng knew that she had been wronged, so he had to comfort her. "It's all my fault. I want to meet a friend today, so I didn't pay attention to my phone. I won't do it again, okay?" Gu Xining was just wronged, so she vented in this way. When she had vented enough, she directly threw herself into Qin Sheng's arms and started sobbing. Qin Sheng had no choice but to hug Gu Xining and comfort her. Who would like to see a beautiful woman cry? Who wouldn't feel sorry for her? After a long time, Qin Sheng let go of Gu Xining and said, "Are you okay now? It's so late. Let me take you home first, okay?" Gu Xining didn't say anything and got in the car alone. Qin Sheng didn't take the initiative to drive because he was drunk. On the way back, he could tell Gu Xining that he was going to Yibin Bamboo Sea in South Chuan tomorrow. On the way home, Gu Xining finally calmed down. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been angry with you just now. It's okay. It's also my fault. Isn't it because you care about me?" Qin Sheng replied with a smile. He was not angry at all. He just felt sorry for Gu Xining. Gu Xining continued, "My mother and uncle came to see you tonight and wanted to talk to you. Who knew that they couldn't reach you after calling you so many times? In the end, they couldn't wait anymore and went back. Your mother and uncle wanted to see me? What's the matter?" Qin Sheng was a little confused. Gu Xining had to tell him the truth. "They want you to stay out of our family business and let us handle it ourselves." Hearing this, Qin Sheng understood what was going on. He was a little playful. "How to handle it? Are you afraid of Gu Jiani and compromise with him? He's the murderer who killed your father." The last sentence made Gu Xining's eyes turn red again. "Yes, he's the murderer who killed my father. Now we compromise with the murderer. What's wrong with this society? But what can we do?" Gu Xining pretended to be strong and said, "What can we do? Are we a match for them? Mom and uncle are also doing this for you and for me. They don't want any accidents to happen to us. I said that I can solve it. Don't you believe me?" Qin Sheng didn't want to explain too much and said directly. It was not that Gu Xining didn't believe Qin Sheng. It was because she knew all about Qin Sheng's current situation. How could he solve it? Gu Xining didn't want to hurt Qin Sheng. She could only say, "I believe you, but I don't want anything to happen to you. Since you believe me, let me do it. I also have something to discuss with you," Qin Sheng said thoughtfully. Gu Xining was confused. "What's the matter?" Qin Sheng explained. "Accompany me to Yibin Bamboo Sea in South Chuan tomorrow." "Go to Yibin Bamboo Sea in South Chuan? What for?" Gu Xining was even more confused. Qin Sheng had already thought of a reason. He smiled and said, "To meet an old friend. After meeting him, you'll know what to do about your family. If even he can't do anything, I won't show off. What do you think?" Hearing Qin Sheng's words, Gu Xining was finally relieved. She directly nodded and agreed. After sending Gu Xining home, Qin Sheng could finally go back to sleep. Not long after he returned home and charged his mobile phone, Song Ryu called and said, "It seems that there are more than one group of people following you. I guess the trip to Chuan Bamboo Sea in South Chuan will be lively." Qin Sheng couldn't help but be lost in thought. More than one group of people? It was very simple. In addition to the people sent by Elder Long, There was also Gu Jiani, who was on Master Ma's side. If there was a third group, it must be sent by Master Chan to investigate him. Qin Sheng didn't care about this. Anyway, in the trip to Chuan Bamboo Sea, he would deal with whoever dared to do anything to him. Chapter 1132. Courting Death. Early in the morning, after Qin Sheng got up, he went straight to the bookstore. After seeing his aunt that day, he had not seen his aunt for the past 2 days. He did not know what his aunt had gone to do. She was really elusive. Qin Sheng had been reflecting these days. Except for him, his sister, and Ran, the rest of the Qin family seemed to be a little abnormal. Not to mention the old man, who was invincible in the capital market and finally got himself in a prison. What about his uncle? When he was young, he was in the limelight, and his official career could be said to have skyrocketed. Everyone thought that he would eventually become a high official, but 20 years ago, he suddenly became a monk, which made everyone dumbfounded. Otherwise, his status today would not be low. Now suddenly, there was an aunt. Well, she was also a monster. Putting aside her devastatingly beautiful face, just her ability to disappear without a trace was already unfathomable. Not to mention the fact that she had disappeared all these years and had only reappeared after the Qin family was in trouble. Not to mention his grandfather. Even the old Taoist priest at Laguantai said that his grandfather was a man of great wisdom and was destined to have a rough life. Because he saw through too many mysteries, he finally died without a name. Even in his next life, he might be implicated, but it was good for the descendants of the Qin family. After regaining his memory and knowing his aunt's real identity, Qin Sheng felt that this aunt was more like his grandfather than his big uncle and the old man. Maybe his grandfather had known about this a long time ago, so he trained his aunt to be the secret weapon of the Qin family, or maybe she was the last resort of the Qin family. After making breakfast, Qin Sheng went to the bookstore. When he arrived at the bookstore, Ning was already busy wiping the tables and mopping the floor. Qin Sheng helped to clean up the flowers and plants sent from outside. They would leave Chengdu in 2 days. At that time, they would really be busy again and probably would not have this kind of leisure time anymore. Ning was very surprised and asked, "Brother Li Xiong, why do you have time to come to the bookstore? Why don't you accompany your fiancée?" In Qin Sheng's eyes, Ning was like a younger sister. This also reminded him of Xin, who might be in Shanghai or Xian now, and his silly younger sister, Qin Ran. Ning was similar to them. She was not scheming. She was very pure and kind. Qin Sheng replied with a smile, "Ning, why do you sound so angry? Did I offend you in any way recently?" "No, I'm just telling the truth," Ning pouted. Qin Sheng said, half-jokingly, "Ning, do you want to fall in love now that I have a fiancé?" Ning said somewhat embarrassedly, "Brother Li Xiong, can you stop fooling around? Who is that woman? Is it really okay for you to do this?" "I'm going to complain to Aunt. She is really my fiancée. Don't you believe me?" Qin Sheng said helplessly. He did not want to tell Ning about the past. Ning asked with an expression that said, "Brother Li Xiong, I'm not a fool. I've known you for so long. Why didn't I know that you have a fiancé? I didn't hear you mention it to Aunt. Do you think I can believe it?" Okay. She's your fiancé. Then what about the ambiguous relationship between you and Gu Xining? Qin Sheng finally understood. He said with a smile, "Ning, do you think your brother Li Xiong is a scumbag?" Anyway, no matter how he explained, Ning would not believe it. After all, he met Gu Xining before he lost his memory. Now he was reunited with Song Ruyu. How could Ning understand this? Ning did not speak, but the look in her eyes had already explained it. That wasn't it? Qin Sheng had to say with emotion, "You'll know in the future. Or I'll tell you when Aunt comes back." Hearing that brother Li Xiong mentioned Aunt, Ning murmured to herself, "Is it true?" Qin Sheng stayed in the bookstore almost all day, which made Ning quite curious. After all, Qin Sheng had been too busy recently. In the afternoon, when Gu Xining drove a Mercedes-Benz G63 to the door of the bookstore, Ning finally knew why Qin Sheng did not go out. It turned out that he was waiting for Gu Xining. At the same time, Ning immediately overturned all the words Qin Sheng had said in the morning. It was really serious nonsense. Boss scumbag. What fiancé? What aunt? They were all lies. Qin Sheng also felt Ning's eyes. He really wanted to cry, but could not explain. He walked over shamelessly and said, Ning, listen to my explanation. This time, Ning did not bother to listen. She said directly, Humph, scumbag. After saying that, she left directly. After all, the perfect image of brotherly Xiang in Ning's mind had completely collapsed. It was estimated that she would no longer believe in love in the future. At this time, Gu Xining, who was dressed in sportswear, came over and asked, Have you packed your things? Looking at the youthful Gu Xining, Qin Sheng did not dare to have any evil thoughts. After all, Song Ruyu's eyes might be nearby. He replied with a smile, There is nothing to pack. Let's go directly. Gu Xining directly threw the key to Qin Sheng. It was really a good match for a scumbag. After getting in the car, Gu Xining told Qin Sheng that she had talked with her mother and uncle, saying that she would make a decision after returning from the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan. Gu Xining's mother did not say anything. She really did not want Li Xiang to get involved in the affairs of the Gu family. However, Gu Xining's uncle was a little confused this time. If Li Xiang really did not have the ability, why did he deliberately mystify things? However, he dared not believe it. He just told Gu Xining to be careful not to be fooled by Li Xiang. Qin Sheng did not say anything after hearing that. He just drove quietly. When Qin Sheng and the others left the city, several groups of people who followed them also went to the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan at the same time. However, they did not know where Qin Sheng was going. In the suite of Chengdu Tianfu Intercontinental Hotel, a lame middle-aged man was sitting in front of the window and making a phone call. The news on the phone told him that the opportunity seemed to have come. Boss, he has left the city. It seems that he is going to South Chuan. We are following him, a man on the other side of the phone said in a deep voice. The lame middle-aged man squinted and said, Follow him closely. I will send others to support you. But boss, there is one more thing. It seems that there are other people following the target. Will there be any problems? The person in charge on the other side of the phone frowned and said. Hearing this, the middle-aged man immediately became vigilant and said, There are other people. Do you know where they are coming from? I don't know, but one thing is clear. They should not be protecting him, but fighting against him. I think they're also very careful. I don't know if they have found us, the person in charge replied truthfully. After a moment of silence, the middle-aged man said, Be careful. Try to find out where they are from. Try not to alert them. Keep in touch with me at all times. Understood, the person in charge said in a deep voice. This time, they were hired by this middle-aged man with a large sum of money. As long as they completed this task, they could retire after it was over. As for the middle-aged man's identity, it was not difficult to guess. Of course, he was the lame Lao Zheng, one of the 3 successors of Elder Long. He was also a poor guy who was abandoned by the 2 middle-aged men in Siju City. He thought that he could succeed Elder Long. When a middle-aged man answered the phone, in a villa in Chengdu's Shuangliu Shepherd Mountain, the young and promising old Ma, who was known as the loser's counterattack, was also answering the phone. Gu Jiani, who continued to pressure him today, was sitting opposite him. He didn't want any accidents to happen to the Gu family, and he didn't want anything to happen to the Gu family. Therefore, regardless of whether it was for benefits or revenge, Li Xiang had to be eliminated. Follow the plan. If there is an opportunity, directly solve the problem, Old Ma said in a very sinister tone after listening to the report from the other side. Gu Jiani happened to hear this sentence. After Old Ma hung up the phone, he hurriedly asked, There is an opportunity? Old Ma, who was dressed very formally and combed his oily hair, said disapprovingly, He is just a small character. Why are you so nervous? Today, he brought your niece to Chuannan. Don't forget whose territory Chuannan is. As long as he goes to Chuannan, I will be able to solve him. Gu Jiani heard this sentence and laughed out loud. He did not expect Li Xiang to go to Chuannan. Old Ma started from Chuannan. Wasn't this a wolf seeking death by entering the tiger's den? Therefore, Li Xiang was doomed. At the same time, Master Chen also heard the news that Li Xiang went to Chuannan. "Boss, should we save him?" Yu Kai, who was next to him, frowned and asked. Even though Li Xiang had successfully left the place that day, he did not think that Master Chen would approve of him so easily until Master Chen said to investigate. Master Chen squinted his eyes and thought for a few seconds. "If we want to go to Chuannan, how can we save him? Should we fall out with old Ma? Because of him? If he can come back alive from Chuannan, I will protect him even if I have to fall out with him." Yu Kai heard this and immediately complimented, "Master Chen is mighty." Chapter 1133. Master Zhao had retired behind the scenes for many years, living a leisurely life. However, those brothers who followed him had now become the big shots of Sichuan and Chongqing. It was just that Master Zhao had never asked about their affairs and placed more of his focus on the business world. Many people might have guessed that Master Zhao's 3 years in prison was actually to cut himself off from the past. When he came out, he was a new Master Zhao. How could he get involved in the past? Moreover, these big shots in Sichuan and Chongqing, who dared to disobey him? Unfortunately, as time went by and there were more interests involved, these brothers started to plot against each other, such as Master Ma and Master Chen. Master Ma had been living in the south of Sichuan and always wanted to extend his influence into Chengdu. However, a few years ago, he didn't have the guts to do so. He was afraid that Master Zhao would be angry if he found out. Later, he gradually entered Chengdu and found that Master Zhao didn't care about these things, so he started to be unscrupulous. As for Master Chen, he knew that Chengdu was not something that he could handle alone. Moreover, other people were also involved in Chengdu. However, he did not expect that old Ma would be so presumptuous and not take him seriously at all. In the past 2 years, old Ma had been in constant conflict with him. However, Master Chen did not want to embarrass his brothers, so he turned a blind eye to it. Unfortunately, the more you backed off, the more discontented some people were. Therefore, this time, he also wanted to use Li Xiang's matter to play tricks with old Ma. Master Chen finally asked his men to retreat. He also wanted to see if Li Xiang had the ability to come back from the south of Sichuan safely. This was also a test for Li Xiang. However, Qin Sheng didn't know about this, and he didn't want to know about it. It took only 4 hours to drive from Chengdu to the Bamboo Sea in the south of Sichuan. If Qin Sheng drove alone, he might be a little lonely, but how could he be lonely when there was a beauty by his side? Therefore, along the way, Qin Sheng and Gu Xining talked about a lot of things. Gu Xining, who was a chatterbox, was always full of topics. Perhaps it was because she was in front of Qin Sheng. Even in front of her friends, she seldom talked most of the time. She also enjoyed spending time alone with Qin Sheng. Time passed in the blink of an eye. When it was dark, they arrived at the downtown area of Yibin. Yibin's city wasn't famous, and many people didn't know about it. However, not many people didn't know about Wuliangye, and the most famous product in Yibin was Wuliangye. Its factory was located here. Qin Sheng chose a random food stall to settle his dinner, which was also his favorite way of life. If it were not for the fact that he was worried about Gu Xining driving on the mountain road, Qin Sheng would really like to drink some Wuliangye for the occasion. There were many delicacies in Yibin. In the end, Qin Sheng chose Yibin burning noodles. He liked eating noodles very much. After all, he had grown up in Xi'an. That was the kingdom of noodles. There were biang biang noodles, yupo noodles, minced meat noodles, etc. There were also mutton steam buns, mutton calabash steam buns, and so on. Therefore, every time he went back to Xi'an, he would eat all of them. However, he was always in a hurry when he came back, and there were so many trifles to deal with, so he did not have the chance to taste all of them again. However, every time he went to a city, especially a city with noodles, Qin Sheng would also try it. Therefore, in Chengdu, he ate dandan noodles the most. Qin Sheng chose Yibin burning noodles, while Gu Xining only asked for Shuanghe cold cake. In order to maintain her figure, she was very strict with her diet, which was the difference between men and women. Shall we stay in the city tonight, or go directly to the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan? Gu Xining asked thoughtfully. To be honest, This was the first time she went out with Qin Sheng alone, and also the first time she went out with another man. The trip to Mount Qinsheng did not count, because Liangzhu, Tian, and the others were there. Gu Xining had already thought about many things, such as how they should stay at night. She was not clear about her relationship with Qin Sheng. If Qin Sheng wanted to stay with her, what should she do? Should she say no or agree? If she said no, their relationship was ambiguous, and Qin Sheng was helping the Gu family now. Would he be angry? But if she agreed, it would show that she was not reserved enough. After all, they were not really boyfriend and girlfriend yet. Of course, Qin Sheng would not stay in the city of Yibin. He said in a low voice, "Let's go directly to the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan." Therefore, after dinner, they continued their journey. It took about 40 minutes from the city to the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan. Moreover, they were not going to enter the scenic area, but to a holiday villa near the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan. This holiday villa was Zhao Qishi's residence in the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan, and this time it was lent to Qin Sheng and Song Ruyu. At about 8 o'clock in the evening, they finally arrived at the holiday villa, which was located in the south of the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan. It was surrounded by dense bamboo forests, and they could overlook the scenery at the foot of the mountain. In addition, there was a medium-sized lake next to it, which could be said to be unique. Most importantly, the air in the Sea of Bamboo in South Sichuan was really indescribable, which was called the natural oxygen bar. If you lived here for a long time, your life would increase by a few years. Usually, there weren't many people here. There were only 2 gatekeepers and 2 cleaning aunties. Every night, only one gatekeeper would stay, and the others would go back to their homes at the foot of the mountain. Every time Master Zhao came here to rest, the place would become lively, because Master Zhao would bring many people from Chengdu. The 2 gatekeepers were over 50 years old, and their children were working or living in the city. They had nothing to do, so they came here to guard the door. The 2 aunties came here to support their family. After all, they could not make much money outside. The old man in charge of this place was called Uncle Su. He had already received a call from Chengdu and asked Uncle Su to take care of Qin Sheng and Song Ruyu's food and accommodation. He didn't need to take care of other things. Song Ryu had already told Master Zhao what to say. After that, Uncle Su said to Qin Sheng and Gu Xining, "I'll be on duty here tonight. If you need anything, just tell me directly. I'll go to the town to buy it tomorrow. The house is ready, and there are some dishes in the kitchen. If you're hungry, you can go and eat directly." "Uncle Su, thank you," Qin Sheng said politely, and Gu Xining also nodded politely. Uncle Su was a countryman, so he naturally knew that they were Master Zhao's distinguished guests. He didn't want to say anything more, and then said, "Then I'll go. It's late now, you should rest early." After Uncle Su left, Qin Sheng took Gu Xining's suitcase and walked into the main building of the villa, which was also where Master Zhao stayed every time. In addition to the master bedroom, there were 4 guest bedrooms. There was a huge French window in the living room on the 2nd floor, from which they could directly see the scenery at the foot of the mountain. Especially when the wind was blowing, it was very comfortable to sit here and drink tea. Gu Xining followed Qin Sheng closely until they stopped at the door of the guest bedroom on the 2nd floor. Qin Sheng took the suitcase and directly walked in. Gu Xining became more and more nervous. Were they really going to stay together tonight? Then something else would definitely happen tonight. Was she ready? She was not a little girl. As a girl, she naturally knew what would happen. After all, a man and a woman were alone in the same room. How could the lightning not strike the fire from the earth? But at this time, Qin Sheng suddenly said, "You stay here tonight." Hearing this, Gu Xining was stunned for a few seconds. After a long time, she said, "What about you?" She naturally understood what Qin Sheng meant. That was, she would stay here, but Qin Sheng would not. Qin Sheng smiled and said, "I'll stay next door." Gu Xining completely relaxed in an instant, but at the same time, she felt very disappointed, as if she had been looking forward to it. When she came to herself, Qin Sheng had already returned to the room next door. Gu Xining muttered in a low voice, "Gu Xining, are you in heat? What are you thinking about?" After returning to the room, Qin Sheng immediately hid in the bathroom and called Song Ruyu. I've arrived at the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan. What about you? I'm in a hotel in the scenic area, Song Ruyu said in a low voice. Qin Sheng frowned and asked, what about Lao Chong and the others? What if they don't come? Are you afraid? I thought you were not afraid every time, Song Ruyu said with a little resentment. Last time, Qin Sheng went to Ningbo on his own initiative. Otherwise, there would not be so many troubles later. Qin Sheng said helplessly, are you still angry? Song Ruyu did not bother to pay attention to him. Instead, she asked, where's your little girlfriend? Qin Sheng was about to go crazy. Song Ruyu always made things difficult for him. What would happen if he got married in the future? He had to answer truthfully in the room next door. You are watching me. How dare I act recklessly? Lao Chong and the others arrived earlier than you. They are already in the villa. There are other people outside, so you can rest assured, Song Ruyu said lightly. Then she told Qin Sheng in detail about the plan, because it was very likely that those people would take action tonight. Who knew whether Qin Sheng and the others would leave tomorrow? After hearing this, Qin Sheng finally felt relieved. He did not expect that they would arrive earlier than him. After talking about what should be talked about, Qin Sheng and Song Ruyu hung up the phone for fear of attracting attention. At that time, the plan would be ruined. After taking a shower and changing clothes, Qin Sheng went to the living room on the second floor to make tea. At this time, Gu Xining also came out. She was wearing quite casual clothes. If there were no outsiders, she would probably come out directly in her pajamas. Anyway, there was only Qin Sheng here. What was she afraid of? They sat on the second floor, chatting and watching TV. Anyone outside could see them through the floor-to-ceiling windows. In fact, Qin Sheng did this to show those people. Otherwise, how would they dare to take action? At the same time, in the bamboo forest around the holiday villa, two different groups of people were staring here. One group was naturally sent by the lame Lao Zheng, and the other group was sent by Old Ma and Gu Jiani. Their purpose was to deal with Qin Sheng, which showed how much hatred Qin Sheng had attracted. A master on Lao Zheng's side asked, brother, when will we take action? I see that there are only two of them. Shall we directly take action now? It's still early. Don't act rashly and alert the enemy. You forget that there are other people nearby. Be careful, or the third party will take advantage of the situation. The middle-aged man on Lao Zheng's side, who was holding a special machete, squinted and said, the master asked, when will we take action? The middle-aged man sneered and said, when our reinforcements arrive. At that time, we will deal with all those people. Hearing this, the master was already eager to have a try. Tonight was really lively. Chapter 1134. The Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan was not only a natural oxygen bar, but also one of the 10 most beautiful forests in the country. It was composed of more than 500 peaks and more than 400 kinds of bamboos. The bamboo branches were green and beautiful. Every time there was a storm, it was quite magnificent. Therefore, many movies and TV series have been shot here, and the most famous one was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Qin Sheng had been here with Lin Su in the past, but at that time, they lived in the scenic area and were cheated to have a banquet. Of course, Lin Su paid for it. It seemed that Qin Sheng had the gene of living off a woman. Unexpectedly, he would come here again this time. The bamboo forest was quiet, but there were hidden dangers. Qin Sheng knew all this, but Gu Xining was still kept in the dark. This trip to the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan was over. No matter what the final result was, it was time for Qin Sheng to leave Chengdu. Therefore, he should tell Gu Xining in advance. Of course, he would not make it so obvious because he had done something tonight. For example, Qin Sheng had secretly added sleeping pills into the tea that Gu Xining was drinking at this moment. In this way, Gu Xining would sleep soundly. When she woke up, everything would be over. Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, Cici, I may leave Chengdu after a period of time. Gu Xining, who was drinking tea, was surprised. She said, what do you mean? Where are you going? For how long? Qin Sheng said, half truthfully. I gradually remembered some things in the past. I want to go there and have a look. Maybe I can find my family. As for how long, I'm not sure. Maybe I will not come back after I leave. Hearing this, Gu Xining could not accept it. She gritted her teeth and said, Then what about me after you leave? Cece, to be honest, I am very happy to know you. But if I really have a wife and children, what should I do? So you should also be mentally prepared. You are so beautiful and so young. You still have a long life ahead of you. Maybe I'm just a passerby in your life. So don't have any hope for me. Qin Sheng knew that some words would hurt her, but he still had to say what should be said. Gu Xining suppressed her grievance and said, I have said that I will be your lover. Stop kidding. Even if you are willing, will your family be willing? How will others think of you? Won't I feel guilty? Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. In fact, Gu Xining had thought about these things a long time ago, especially when Qin Sheng talked to her seriously last time. At the beginning, when Qin Sheng said that he had lost his memory, Gu Xining thought that he was teasing her on purpose. How could it be such a coincidence? But later, she gradually believed it because there were some things that she had to believe, especially the details that Qin Sheng had shown in every aspect, which did not match his current identity at all. Now, she was completely convinced. What if Qin Sheng really remembered the past? What if he really had a wife and a child? How should she choose? Of course, it was also possible that Qin Sheng was still single, but this possibility was too small. When Qin Sheng was just an ordinary person, she could find this glowing stone. What about the Qin Sheng in the past? How could there be no women who liked him? Because he believed that Qin Sheng was absolutely outstanding in the past. At this time, the sleeping pills began to take effect. Gu Xining did not want to think about it anymore. She shook her head and said, I don't want to think about it now. Let's talk about it when you come back. Maybe you don't have a wife and a child, so I don't need to think about it. Qin Sheng could not tell her the truth now, so he had to say, Go to sleep if you are tired. Gu Xining dragged her exhausted body into the room. It would not take long for her to fall asleep. When she woke up, everything would be over. After Gu Xining went asleep, Qin Sheng began to think about what had happened tonight. It was a rare opportunity for Elder Long to take action. After all, he might not know that he had regained his memory and had contacted the Qin family. It was getting late, and the sky outside was getting darker and darker. It happened that there was no moon tonight, so it could be said that it was pitch black outside. It was really a good night to kill someone. When it was past 11 o'clock, Qin Sheng turned off the lights outside and directly went back to his room to rest. However, other people hiding in the villa began to take action. In the bamboo forest outside the villa. This time, Lame Lao Zheng used all his resources to find these masters. This time, there were only 3 people following Qin Sheng to the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan. They had been acting low-key to avoid alerting Qin Sheng. The other 2 were supposed to take a break today, but they had already arrived. The person in charge of this operation was a master of internal martial arts. Although he was over 40 years old, his strength was unquestionable. He had taught 7 or 8 national champions. Among the other 4 people, 2 of them were retired Special Forces soldiers. The remaining 2 were from 2 families with extraordinary skills. One of them was Old Ghost's nephew. This master of internal martial arts was called Zhou Sheng. It was a pity that he did not know that this time he might die. It was almost midnight. Zhou Sheng was a little impatient. He was afraid that the idiots on the other side would beat the grass and alert the snake. Who knew how strong those idiots were? On Ba Sheng's side, to be honest, Qin Sheng was very powerful. Hence, this was also the reason why Zhou Sheng did not choose to sit on the mountain and reap the benefits in the end. If those idiots were not strong enough, they would only cause more trouble for them if they could not kill Qin Sheng. Therefore, it would be better for them to directly deal with those idiots on the opposite side first, and then deal with Qin Sheng together. He didn't believe that his target wouldn't be able to escape. Why aren't Old Song and Little Lu here yet? Zhou Sheng frowned. One of Zhou Sheng's subordinates said, Big brother, why don't we not wait for them? We could just go over there and deal with them directly. Do we need to be afraid of these small fries? What do you know? It's better to be safe than sorry, scolded Zhou Sheng. At this time, another killer, Wan Kai, said, "Brother Zhou, there is some movement behind us. Are they here?" Zhou Sheng did not dare to be careless. He said in a deep voice, "Be careful. You two go over and take a look." The two of them immediately left cautiously, while Zhou Sheng stared at the idiots in front of him. There should be 3 or 4 of them. A few minutes later, Wan Kai and the others came over and said eagerly, "Brother Zhou, Lao Song." He came with little Lu. When Zhou Sheng saw the other 2 killers, he said without hesitation, "Do it." After the 5 of them discussed the plan, they immediately split up and took action. In the bamboo forest behind the villa, Old Ma's 3 subordinates were whispering. One of them laughed and said, "Brother Dan, Old Ma only ordered us to get rid of the man. What about the woman? Let's have some fun, brothers." This man called Brother Dan was not an ordinary man. He had learned Muay Thai in Southeast Asia for 8 years, so he was very skilled. The 2 subordinates were also champions of Sanda in the province. They had been fighting for a long time, so they were very experienced. So they were determined to win tonight. However, they did not know Qin Sheng's background. If they did, they would know that the 3 of them might not be able to take Qin Sheng down. Moreover, there were other people in the Qin family tonight. So in comparison, Old Long's side was well prepared. "Damn it. Old Ma said that we are not allowed to touch the woman even if she is asleep. Otherwise, he will kill us." Brother Dan slapped his subordinate's head, afraid that he would make a mistake. At this time, another subordinate asked, "Brother Dan, when are we going to do it? It's already past 12 o'clock." Brother Dan frowned and said, "Wait a little longer. We'll do it after 1 o'clock when they are asleep." After a few minutes, the bamboo forest behind them suddenly rustled. Brother Dan was also a little sleepy, but he did not care. He said casually, "Lao San, why are you going?" Lao San was also too lazy to move, but he did not dare to disobey Brother Dan's words, so he could only go obediently. However, he did not come back after a few minutes, which made Brother Dan feel that something was wrong. He frowned and said, "Lao San, why is he not back after so long?" The subordinate laughed and said, "I think he went to take a dump. This guy always has a lot of urine and feces." "Go and have a look," Brother Dan said with some worry. This little brother went over while cursing and swearing. However, after 5 or 6 minutes, the subordinate did not come back. Brother Dan shouted a few words in a low voice, but there was no sound. At this time, Brother Dan's intuition told him that something might have happened. He couldn't care less about dealing with the man now. Without hesitation, he ran in another direction. However, after running a few steps, he suddenly tripped and fell to the ground. Before he could get up, he was already pressed under the bodies of 2 men. Brother Dan definitely wanted to resist. He was a master of Muay Thai. Unexpectedly, before he could resist, a dagger directly cut his throat. Brother Dan instantly died with his eyes wide open. He did not expect that the seemingly simple person this time was actually rode to the underworld. Zhou Sheng could not help but sigh. They are indeed useless. Fortunately, we did not let them do it, otherwise we would have alerted the enemy. Brother Zhou is really thoughtful, the others agreed. At this time, Lao Song asked, "Brother Zhou, then when do we do it?" Brother Zhou looked at the pitch-black villa below and said, "What are we waiting for?" Everyone understood instantly and rushed to the villa at the same time. Chapter 1135. In downtown Chengdu, Master Ma was still waiting for the news from the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan, but he didn't know that his subordinates had already been killed. However, it was not Qin Sheng's fault, because he had met a more ruthless opponent. In fact, if he knew all the causes and effects, perhaps he would feel lucky, because these people who had appeared out of nowhere had helped him to avoid a disaster. If he had really taken action against Qin Sheng, all the achievements and status he had built over the years would have been gone in an instant. Even if Qin Sheng hadn't done it, Master Zhao would have done it himself. Otherwise, Master Zhao would have probably followed in Master Long's footsteps. After all, no one was willing to offend the Zhu family, which was at its peak now. In the villa in the Sea of Bamboos, in South Chuan. Although it looked pitch black outside, everyone knew that danger was lurking everywhere inside. No one could escape unscathed. Not only Qin Sheng was in Qin Sheng's room, but Chang Baji was also there. However, they didn't talk to each other. They just waited quietly for their opponents to come to them. In Gu Xining's room, Qin Sheng's aunt was already accompanying her. This was also to avoid any accidents. This time, the situation in Ningbo a few years ago would not happen again. The Qin family had almost used all of its power. In addition, Zhuangzhou and Nangong were lurking downstairs, while the other bodyguards of the Qin family and the people borrowed from Master Zhao stayed at the foot of the mountain. Once something happened here, they would immediately rush over to help. Whoever wanted to kill Qin Sheng had to give it a try. The atmosphere in the villa was a little strange. Everyone held their breath and waited for their opponents to come in, although they didn't know how many of them there were. When it was just past 1 o'clock in the morning, all kinds of strange sounds finally came from outside. Everyone knew that their opponents had started to fight. Qin Sheng looked at Chang Baji and said, "They're here." The others also heard the noise outside at the same time. At this moment, Zhou Sheng had already lurked outside the villa with other killers. They had already cut off the power of the villa. After all, there were many cameras around the villa. They didn't want all of them to be recorded. If that happened, they would have to run away even if they finished their task. After that, they broke into the villa. When they were on the mountain, they had observed that Qin Sheng and Gu Xining seemed to live upstairs. However, they could not guarantee that they were upstairs, so they decided to act separately. Zhou Sheng waved his hand at Lao Song and the rest, indicating that they should proceed according to the plan. That was, 2 people would search the bottom and the other 2 would search the top. Once they found Qin Sheng, they would immediately inform him, and everyone would try their best to solve the problem. This way, there would be no accidents, and they could complete the task and leave in the shortest time possible. Lao Song and Xiao Lu were arranged to search downstairs. Zhou Sheng led the other 2 people upstairs. After all, it was more likely that Qin Sheng and Gu Xining were upstairs. Xiao Lu, who was relatively young, frowned and said, "Brother Song, why do I feel that the atmosphere is not quite right? Is there any danger?" Old Song might have been used to all kinds of situations, so he said disapprovingly, "What risks can there be? It's probably because there aren't many people in this place, so it looks gloomy. Don't think too much about it. It's just a man and a woman. We have so many people. How can we not be their match?" Xiao Lu nodded silently and said, "You're right. Maybe I'm overthinking. You go over there, I'll go over here," Elder Song said. There were 3 rooms upstairs in the villa, 1 master bedroom, 2 guest bedrooms, a living room, and a balcony. There were only 2 rooms downstairs in the villa, and then there were the dining room, the living room, the kitchen, and other functional rooms. Lao Song and Lao Lu split up and carefully opened the first door. They found that it was not locked from the inside. They walked in quietly and found out that it was a storage room, which made them a little disappointed. After all, the other side had said that they would kill the target personally. There would be extra rewards. At this time, they opened the second door, which was the door of a guest bedroom. They could not see anything in the dark, but they saw that the bed was bare, so they were sure that the target was not here. After coming out, they quickly opened the third door. This room was also a guest bedroom. At this moment, there was a person lying on the bed in the room, and there was another person in the corner of the curtain. These 2 people were Nangong and Zhuangzhou. Originally, the Qin family did not inform Nangong, but Nangong happened to be in Dalian, so Zhuangzhou brought him along. The person lying on the bed was Nangong, and the person standing behind the curtain was Zhuangzhou. Nangong's back was facing the door, but he could hear the footsteps of Lao Song and Xiao Lu approaching step by step. In such a quiet room, even the sound of a needle falling could be heard, let alone footsteps. When they saw the person lying on the bed, Lao Song and Xiao Lu looked at each other. Both of them could see the surprise in each other's eyes. They took out the weapons in their hands excitedly and nervously, carefully approaching step by step. When they walked to the bedside, they almost picked up the weapons in their hands at the same time and directly stabbed the person on the bed. It was at this moment that something strange suddenly happened. Nangong, who was lying on the bed, suddenly lifted the quilt and threw it at Lao Song and Xiao Lu. On the other side, Zhuangzhou had already walked out from behind the curtain and strode toward Lao Song and Xiao Lu. He stepped on the edge of the bed and leaped into the air, kicking Lao Song and Xiao Lu. Nangong also jumped up from the bed and rushed toward Lao Song and Xiao Lu. Lao Song and Xiao Lu were shocked, and their expressions changed almost at the same time. They knew very well that there would be an unforeseen event tonight. Before they could lift the quilt, Zhuangzhou had already kicked Lao Song out. Lao Song exclaimed, and Xiao Lu hurriedly made move. It didn't take long for the room to be in a mess. Upstairs, Zhou Sheng led the other two people to search as carefully as they did downstairs. They first went into the master bedroom, but they didn't expect that there was no one there. They searched again and again before leaving. Then, they came to the door of the remaining two guest bedrooms. Zhou Sheng stood in front of the door and gestured for the other two to open the door. The two of them opened the door at the same time, but it was pitch black inside. They couldn't see anything because the curtains of both rooms were drawn. Therefore, Zhou Sheng gestured for them to go in and have a look. The two of them walked into the room cautiously and found the person lying on the bed almost at the same time. Just when they were happy that they had finally found their target, suddenly there was a loud noise downstairs. The two of them stopped moving almost at the same time. But at this moment, Qin Sheng, Chong Baji, and Qin Chongqing, who were in the two rooms, made their moves at the same time. They knew that the people downstairs had already made their move. At this time, the other party must have noticed something strange. If they didn't make their move now, when would they make their move? Before the two killers could make their move, they suddenly found that the target lying on the bed suddenly got up and rushed toward them without any warning. They were stunned almost subconsciously. They didn't expect such an unforeseen event to happen. But at this time, the target had already rushed in front of them. They had no time to think and could only fight back hurriedly. At the door, Zhou Sheng also heard the movement downstairs. Before he could ask the two killers what was going on, he heard the movement downstairs. He thought that Qin Sheng and Gu Xining were staying in the room downstairs. He was ready to go down and help them immediately, but at this time, there was a sudden change in the two rooms upstairs. How could Zhou Sheng not feel such a big movement? At the same time, there was such a big movement upstairs and downstairs. Obviously, they had fallen into an ambush. No matter how stupid Zhou Sheng was, he knew what was going on. But what should he do at this time? Zhou Sheng was a little confused because he didn't know which was his target. But in the next second, he didn't have to think about it anymore. He had already spoiled his target. There was only one killer in the room. Chong Baji could totally deal with him. And Qin Sheng had already seen that there was another killer at the door. So when Chong Baji restrained the killer in the room, Qin Sheng had already rushed out. Zhou Sheng didn't have time to think too much. He directly fought with Qin Sheng, who had rushed out. After Qin Sheng came out, he directly kicked Zhou Sheng's face, forcing him to retreat into the corridor. Qin Sheng's attack did not reduce at all. It was even sharper than before. He continuously punched and kicked at close range, not giving Zhou Sheng any chance to fight back at all. The situation in Ningbo would not happen again. This time, Qin Sheng went all out. At first, Zhou Sheng didn't know how strong the other party was. He was more concerned about the movements of the others. But suddenly, he found out that the one who attacked him was the target he was looking for. This made Zhou Sheng overjoyed. It was really like wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find what he was looking for without even looking for it. After Zhou Sheng blocked Qin Sheng's first wave of attack, he began to fight back without hesitation while Qin Sheng was adjusting his breath. He grabbed Qin Sheng's shoulder, and the two of them fought back and forth in the corridor. Zhou Sheng wanted to pull Qin Sheng forward, but Qin Sheng landed a punch on Zhou Sheng's shoulder. However, he took the opportunity to retreat 2 steps. Suddenly, he stepped on the foot of the wall and used the momentum to jump up. He used his knee to hit Qin Sheng's chest. Qin Sheng hurriedly retreated to avoid it, but it was too late. Zhou Sheng hit Qin Sheng and sent him flying. But Qin Sheng was not weak either. He hugged Zhou Sheng's calf tightly. While flying backward, he also threw Zhou Sheng out. But in this round, Zhou Sheng still had the upper hand. Qin Sheng suffered a small loss. After Zhou Sheng got up, he faced Qin Sheng and said, "Is this all you've got?" He didn't take Qin Sheng seriously at all, and Qin Sheng didn't take him seriously either. He chuckled and said, "Then let's go again." Zhou Sheng laughed and said, "You will definitely die tonight." Upon hearing this, Qin Sheng burst out laughing. If he were to die in such a situation tonight, he would have died many times. He said in a provocative manner, "Really?" Zhou Sheng didn't want to waste too much time. Without hesitation, he rushed to Qin Sheng again. Qin Sheng was also ready. However, right at this moment, Qin Changqing suddenly rushed out of Gu Xining's room. She had already dealt with the killer easily. How dare he come to assassinate Qin Sheng with such little strength? He really didn't know how many lives he had. Let alone such a killer. Even if she had to face him alone tonight, she could make sure that Qin Sheng would be safe and sound. However, she would not take such a risk. After all, Qin Sheng was the only heir of the Qin family. Zhou Sheng had just rushed to the door when he subconsciously felt that danger was coming. He dodged almost instinctively, but a silver needle still pierced into his shoulder, forcing him to take a few steps back in a hurry. At this time, Qin Changqing had already walked out. She smiled and said, "Sheng-er, let Aunt do it." Zhou Sheng's expression changed instantly. No matter how stupid he was, he knew the result. That was, the killer who came into this room with him had been killed. Since Qin Sheng could do it in such a short time, it could be seen how powerful she was. Zhou Sheng knew that he was in a bad situation. Unfortunately, this was not the worst time for him, because at this time, another middle-aged man walked out of the front door. He stared at Zhou Sheng and said, "Me too." Zhou Sheng's heart was already dead. Seeing this scene, Qin Sheng didn't know what to say for a while. The loneliness of life was like a big avalanche. It was not good to have too many masters. There was no chance for him to make a move at all. Qin Sheng was very clear that the situation downstairs was similar. Zhuangzhou and Nangong should have also solved the problem. After waiting for a whole night, it was so lonely. It was going to end soon. Chapter 1136. 3 years ago, when he was in Ningbo, if Chang Baji and the others had been by his side, Qin Sheng would not have been so miserable. Fortunately, Qin Changqing had arrived at the last moment and turned the tide. Otherwise, the Qin family would not have had no descendants. Now, in the Sea of Bamboo in the south of Chuan, Qin Sheng was surrounded by masters. Almost all those who should be here were here, including Qin Changqing, Chang Baji, Zhuangzhou, Nangong, and Qin Sheng, who was not weak himself. How could these people kill Qin Sheng? It was just a pipe dream. He thought it would be a huge battle, but he didn't expect the final result to be like this. Although it wasn't over yet, the result was already decided. If one of them could escape tonight, the Qin family would lose face. Anyone could kill Qin Sheng easily. At this moment, Zhou Sheng had fallen into despair. He did not expect to fall into a trap. He had thought that it would be a very simple task. The 5 of them would be more than enough to deal with a man like Qin Sheng. Even if those idiots appeared halfway, they would be completely insignificant. However, who knew that the other party had come prepared and was just waiting for them to walk into the trap. He did not know the identity of the man and woman in front of him, but to be able to deal with his 2 companions so easily, they must not be weak. However, Zhou Sheng didn't want to sit and wait for death. He still wanted to fight to the death. Thus, he launched his final attack. However, this was just a harmless joke to Chang Baji and Qin Changqing. Zhou Sheng had only just begun his charge when he fell to the cooperation of Qin Changqing and Chang Baji. Chang Baji faced Zhou Sheng head-on, but the elusive Qin Changqing had already pierced 2 of Zhou Sheng's death acupuncture points with his silver needles before Zhou Sheng could react. Zhou Sheng fell to the ground. No more waves could be stirred up. As for Qin Sheng, he had already expected the result and had already gone downstairs. Downstairs, just as he thought, Nangong and Zhuangzhou were already sitting on the sofa, waiting for them to come down. Although it was pitch black downstairs, Qin Sheng could still recognize Nangong and Zhuangzhou. Old friends met again, but under such circumstances, there was no melancholy or sorrow, nor did they cry bitterly on each other's shoulders. Qin Sheng smiled and said, "Long time no see." Zhuang Zhou got up slowly and said, "Fortunately, it's not too late." Nangong was still as calm as before. He asked in a well-behaved manner, "Has it ended?" Qin Sheng had long understood Nangong's temper. She was really an unromantic and uninteresting woman. He replied blandly, "It's done." Not long after, Qin Changqing and Chang Baji went downstairs. Zhuang Zhou and Nangong had already gone out to clean up the circuit. As for Qin Sheng, he was smoking at the door. In the darkness of the night, Qin Sheng's face could not be seen. Only the lingering smoke could be seen. No one knew what Qin Sheng was thinking at the moment. 10 minutes later, the villa was brightly lit. Zhou Sheng and his companions were already lying in the hall on the first floor. Chang Baji and the others did not kill them, and there was no need to kill him. When the time comes, just hand them over to the police. At this moment, Chang Baji walked up to Qin Sheng and said, "Ruyu is already on her way. The Yibin police are also on their way. Leave the rest to them." Qin Sheng nodded slightly. Qin Changqing also walked over and said, "Sheng I'm leaving now." He had not seen his aunt for several days. He could not wait to ask, "Aunt, will you go back to Beijing with me?" Qin Changqing was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed involuntarily and said, "Let's talk about it later." Qin Sheng didn't know what else to say. After getting along with his aunt for the past 3 years, he was very close to her. However, knowing his aunt, he also knew that she didn't seem to like the busy and boring life in the city. She preferred freedom. Qin Sheng was always afraid that every time he saw his aunt, it might be the last time he saw her. Soon, Qin Changqing disappeared in the darkness of the night. The others continued to wait in the hall. They all knew who the beautiful woman was. It was she who had saved Qin Sheng in those days. However, they did not understand why she had disappeared with Qin Sheng for 3 years instead of directly bringing him back to the Qin family. Of course, they did not know about this. Only the few people of the Qin family knew. About an hour later, 7 or 8 police cars drove into the villa, led by the person in charge of the Yibin Municipal Public Security Bureau. In order to avoid a great disturbance, these police cars did not turn on the siren. After all, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. Such a big noise would alarm too many people. Moreover, the matter involved this time was more complicated. It was said that it was directly called by the ministry, and all the people who came were special police. They also warned that no one was allowed to leak any information related to tonight's action, or they would be disciplined. Song Ryu also came with them, but she was protected by the 3 bodyguards of the Qin family. After Qin Sheng greeted the 2 people in charge of the police and cooperated with them to do some simple questioning, he left the rest of the things to Chang Baji and the others. At this time, he took Song Ryu to the balcony on the 2nd floor, enjoying the tranquility of the sea of bamboos in South Sichuan at night. Song Ryu asked with concern, "Are you hurt?" "Alas, Aunt and Lao Chong are here. How could I be hurt? I haven't even made a move, and the battle has already ended. Isn't it satisfying?" Qin Sheng joked on purpose. Song Ryu was a little unhappy. "Not fun? Then what do you want to do? Do you want to repeat the mistakes of 3 years ago? Or do you want me to wait for another 3 years?" Qin Sheng replied hurriedly, "I'm just kidding." Song Ryu continued, "Uncle and small aunt already know that you are back. They're urging you to go back to Beijing as soon as possible. They don't dare to tell Grandma about you. I guess they want you to explain it to Grandma in person." Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, "Then Grandma will beat me to death. I'm really unfilial. I've made Grandma worry for so long." But when he thought that his uncle and aunt did not call him, he was somewhat surprised. Could it be that they had feelings for him? It was not appropriate for Song Ryu to intervene in this matter. It was estimated that the old lady would definitely reprimand Qin Sheng. No one could stop her. Song Ryu suddenly changed the topic. "I heard that you gave Gu Xining sleeping pills. You didn't do anything to her when she was asleep, did you?" Qin Sheng wanted to say something, but he almost choked when he heard Song Ryu's words. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "How could I do that? I'm a gentleman." "A gentleman? Do you believe it? A man and a woman alone in a room. It's not reasonable that nothing happened." Do you need me to wake Gu Xining up and ask her? Song Ryu said aggressively. Qin Sheng was speechless. Ryu, you've changed. You're not the old Ryu anymore. After saying this, Qin Sheng hurried away, in case Song Ryu continued to ask. He had decided to solve the problem of the Gu family as soon as possible and take her back to Beijing as soon as possible. If he continued to do this, she might really be jealous. The matter was over. The rest was a mess. Qin Sheng didn't need to clean it up. After the police took Zhou Sheng and the others away, Song Ryu and the others accompanied Qin Sheng until dawn. In the end, Song Ryu went back to Chengdu. She had to go back to Beijing today. After all, she had been in Chengdu for several days. However, Chang Baji stayed with the bodyguards of the Qin family to protect Qin Sheng. After dawn, only Qin Sheng and Gu Xining were left in the villa. Chang Baji and the others were waiting for him at the foot of the mountain. After all, there was no danger now. When Gu Xining woke up, Qin Sheng was drinking tea in the living room on the second floor. He smiled and greeted Gu Xining. Good morning. Gu Xining felt a little dizzy. She asked in a daze, How did I fall asleep last night? Qin Sheng explained with a smile. You said you were sleepy, so you went to sleep. Gu Xining shook her head and didn't think much about it. Maybe she was too sleepy recently. When are we going to visit that senior? Gu Xining asked casually before going back to the room to wash up. After all, this was the most important thing in this trip to the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan. Maybe this senior could really help them. At this time, Qin Sheng smiled and took a sip of tea. No, I've already met him. Go wash up now. We'll go back to Chengdu after breakfast. Hearing Qin Sheng's words, Gu Xining was stunned for a few seconds. She stared at Qin Sheng in confusion. What the hell? Did Qin Sheng really meet him? Or did he come to the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan just to tease her? Was it really as her uncle said that Qin Sheng was deliberately mystifying? After a long time, Gu Xining came to her senses. She didn't know how to ask Qin Sheng. In the end, she could only hide these doubts in the bottom of her heart. She forced a smile and said, Okay, I'm going to wash up now. Gu Xining simply took a nap. She didn't know how fierce the fight had been last night. Nothing changed in the villa, as if nothing had happened. Gu Xining naturally didn't know. Chapter 1137. Gu Xining did not want to guess anything. Since Qin Sheng said that he would meet them, so what? As long as Qin Sheng did not get involved in this matter, it would be fine. This was Gu Xining's plan, as well as the choice of her mother and uncle. Since they had already admitted defeat, they did not care what Qin Sheng would do. When Gu Xining washed up and came out, Qin Sheng was already eating breakfast in the restaurant downstairs. The servants of the villa had already come to prepare. The old man who guarded the door just slept quietly for the night, just like Gu Xining. He did not know what had happened last night. Who would have thought of this? After breakfast, they set off for Chengdu. Chang Baji and the others followed behind them. They came in a hurry and left in a hurry. When Qin Sheng returned to Chengdu, the bosses behind the two groups of people who had participated in the assassination last night were a little panicked. Left-legged Lao Zheng had been waiting for a call from Shun and Zhuhai. He waited until he fell asleep, but there was no call. When he woke up, the first thing he did was to ask his confidant if there was any news from Shun and Zhuhai. His confidant shook his head helplessly. Then, left-legged Lao Zheng knew what had happened. Obviously, the mission had failed. Zhou Sheng and the others might have been completely wiped out. Otherwise, why was there no news until now? Why did the mission fail? After all, they had spent a lot of money to hire these people. Moreover, they were not people with undeserved fame. How could they have failed? Obviously, the Qin family had made preparations. These people might have fallen into the Qin family's trap, which was why they had been completely wiped out. Thinking of this, left-legged Lao Zheng felt that he had to leave Chengdu as soon as possible. Otherwise, he might not be able to leave when the time came. Who knew what else the Qin family had planned? At least he would not have so much trouble when he returned to Beijing. Lao Zheng would never have thought that he had been betrayed by the other two heirs. He had become a sacrifice on their way forward, and also the last sacrifice for Elder Long. When left-legged Lao Zheng packed up his things and arranged everything, he was ready to leave Chengdu with his two confidants. Unfortunately, as soon as their car left the hotel gate, it was directly stopped by two police cars. Lao Zheng realized that something might happen. As expected, a few police officers got out of the car and walked over. The person in charge showed his identification and told Old Zheng and the others that they were from the Provincial Department's Special Task Force. Old Zheng and the others were suspected of being involved in an important case and needed to go with them. What could Old Zheng do? This was Chengdu. If he resisted, he would have to pay a huge price. Therefore, Lao Zheng could only leave with the police obediently. At the same time, on the way, he was thinking about how to solve this matter through his connections. He didn't realize the seriousness of the matter yet. This time, he was afraid that he would not be able to come out after entering. In comparison, Godfather Ma didn't have as much trouble. He just didn't expect that he would fail his mission, and it was done so quietly. In the end, he didn't receive any news, and he couldn't even contact his subordinates, just like what happened in Mount Qingsheng. Godfather Ma had to seriously consider some things. Could it be that he had really underestimated this man? Or was this man hiding his strength? Where did he come from? Or could it be that this time, it was Old Chun who saved this man? Was Old Chun going to directly fight with him? No matter what, letting this man leave the Sea of Bamboos and Sichuan alive would really make him lose face. Therefore, Godfather Ma was prepared to use more ruthless methods. What he might not know was that the Provincial Department's Special Task Force was already investigating the identity of the three subordinates who died in the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan. It wouldn't take long for them to find out that they were his subordinates. By then, he might think that it wouldn't affect him much. After all, he had been working hard in Sichuan for so many years. How could he be defeated by such a simple thing? However, what he didn't know was that the man he provoked was someone he couldn't afford to provoke. Moreover, Master Zhao had been watching everything from the side. When Qin Sheng returned to Chengdu, it was already noon. He sent Gu Xining home and went straight to the bookstore. There was still only An Ning in the bookstore. An Ning seemed to have gotten used to it. Her aunt had completely disappeared. Her brother Li Xiang had also changed completely. He quit his job in the bar and delivery service and was idle all day, eating, drinking, and having fun. Most importantly, there were two beauties with different temperaments by his side. This made An Ning very worried. An Ning really wanted her aunt to have a good talk with brother Li Xiang, hoping that he wouldn't go astray. However, her aunt still hadn't come back. An Ning also didn't know what to do. When Qin Sheng returned to the bookstore, Master Chen's spy, who had been squatting at the entrance of the bookstore, immediately reported the news. Yu Kai found Master Chen immediately and said, "Master Chen, Li Xiang is back." "Back so soon?" Master Chen was a little surprised. Yu Kai frowned and said, "Master Chen, this isn't the point. The point is that he actually came back alive. How capable is this guy? He actually came back alive from South Chuan. Master Ma must be furious. Old Ma must be furious. I also didn't expect him to come back alive. This is interesting," Master Chen said thoughtfully. Thinking of Old Ma's flustered and exasperated look, he felt that he really didn't misjudge Li Xiang. Yu Kai asked confusedly, "Master Chen, what should we do now?" "I said that as long as he comes back alive, I will protect him." "Of course, I can't go back on my words," Master Chen said honestly. "Go ahead, I will handle the rest. I will call Old Ma later." Yu Kai nodded and left with a smile. It seemed that Master Chen was very satisfied with Li Xiang. In the future, Li Xiang would probably become Master Chen's confidant. Speaking of which, he had to thank that guy, Jin Zhu. He would treat him to a meal later. He would probably be grateful. Not long after Yu Kai left, Master Chen directly called Old Ma. When Old Ma picked up the phone, Master Chen smiled and greeted him. "Old Ma, are you free tonight? Let's have a gathering tonight. I haven't seen you for a long time." "Why?" "Because of that Li Xiang?" Old Ma was already angry. When he heard Master Chen's words, he said sarcastically. Master Chen said, half-jokingly, "I can't hide anything from you. It's all my fault that I didn't manage my subordinate well and let him offend you. Tonight, I will ask him to apologize to you in person. What do you think?" "Old Chun, if I want Li Xiang to die, will you stop me? You know that he has ruined my plans time and time again. but you still called me on purpose. I really wonder what your intentions are. I know what kind of background he has, and you've only recently won him over. I think you're deliberately targeting me." Old Ma was very unconvinced. Seeing that Old Ma was humiliated, Master Chun was very happy in his heart. Of course, he still said, "Old Ma, listen to what you said. Am I such a person? I know this brat offended you, so you can punish him or hit him tonight." Actually, he knows that he was in the wrong, so he won't bother with the Gu family's matters anymore. For the sake of your brother, let's just forget about this matter. If you're still not satisfied, aren't you interested in the East Station's land? I'll give it to you, okay? Old Ma could feel that Master Chan was determined to protect Li Xiang. Otherwise, he would not have called him personally and sent him such a generous gift. He really did not know that Li Xiang was so valuable. However, Old Ma was also a person who cared about his reputation. He had failed twice in front of Li Xiang, which made him very unconvinced. Should he just let go? Old Ma hesitated for a long time before saying, "Then let's talk tonight." If Li Xiang's attitude was good, then he would put up with it. If Li Xiang's attitude was not good, then he was not afraid of offending Master Chun. He must get rid of this man. After getting a satisfactory answer, Chun Yi hung up the phone with a smile. Then, he dialed Li Xiang's number. He had to make things clear to Li Xiang so that he wouldn't be embarrassed. In the bookstore, An Ning and Qin Sheng were staring at each other. She felt that she could not understand him anymore. Receiving Master Chen's call, Qin Sheng was not surprised at all. It was all within his expectations. Master Chen's intention was very obvious. He wanted him to apologize to Master Ma. This time, he could face Master Ma directly. He wanted to see how capable Master Ma was. He did not know if Gu Jinni would come. If he did, it would be even more interesting. Poor Master Chun was used by Qin Sheng. But what could he do? In front of him, Master Ma and Master Chun were nothing. Chapter 1138. Tonight would be the end of it all. Master Chun had arranged a place for them to meet at night. He didn't believe that Old Ma wouldn't give him face. After all, he didn't ask Old Ma for help. Besides, he had given Old Ma such a big piece of cake. If Old Ma still didn't know what was good for him, they would go their separate ways. As for Master Ma, he seemed to think so too. When Master Chan was making the call, Gu Jinni was sitting next to Old Ma. He kept muttering, "Who the hell is Li Xiang? Why didn't he die?" Old Ma was also thinking about it. How could Li Xiang come back alive from the sea of bamboos? What was going on? Could it be that Master Chun really helped him? If that was the case, Master Chun would definitely fall out with him. In that case, he didn't have to worry about anything anymore. "Master Chun, you're not honest. Don't blame me for not giving you face. The most ridiculous thing is that you actually called me and wanted to reconcile with me. Are you slapping my face on purpose? Master Chun wants to save face, but I don't? Or he could guess that from the beginning to the end, it was Old Chun who was playing tricks. This Li Xiang might be Old Chun's man, but Old Chun had hidden it quite well. Old Ma could totally think this way. He knew that Master Chun didn't like him entering Chengdu. He just turned a blind eye to it. Now, he finally couldn't stand it anymore. Let's see who's stronger this time, shall we? Master Zhao didn't care about these things anymore. What's the taboo? He will die sooner or later. Don't worry. He offended me. How can I let him go? Old Ma said disapprovingly. Gu Jinni quickly flattered him. That's true. He is just a young man. Even if he has Master Chen's support, he will die sooner or later if he offends you. Don't be sarcastic. I will do what I promised you. Don't forget what you promised me. Old Ma snorted. Gu Jinni was shocked. He quickly said, I won't. Old Ma said thoughtfully, do you really think that I won't dare to do anything to you with Master Chen's support? Let's wait and see tonight. Qin Sheng had been staying in the bookstore, and An Ning had been staring at him. She wanted to come up and have a heart-to-heart talk with Qin Sheng several times, but she gave up in the end. She was really afraid that her big brother Li Xiang would take a detour, but she also felt that this was big brother Li Xiang's private life, and it wasn't good for her to interfere. In the afternoon, after confirming the place and time for the meeting, Qin Sheng communicated with Song Ruyu. He knew what Song Ruyu would do. Then, Qin Sheng contacted Gu Xining. He said bluntly, Cici, accompany me to meet a few friends tonight. I'll pick you up then. However, at this moment, Gu Xining was talking with her mother and uncle about the sea of bamboos in the company. Both Min Shu and Min Feng felt that Qin Sheng was deliberately mystifying things. Min Feng disliked Qin Sheng more and more. It could be said that he had a strong opinion and directly opposed Gu Xining and Qin Sheng's relationship. Min Shu was also somewhat dissatisfied with Qin Sheng. She felt that she had misjudged Qin Sheng. They did not want Qin Sheng to get involved in the Gu family's affairs. After all, they had already made up their minds. But why did Qin Sheng still want to put on airs? Moreover, they had agreed to let Qin Sheng and Gu Xining be in a relationship. Why did he have to do this? Therefore, they felt that they had to talk to Qin Sheng again. Hearing that it was Qin Sheng who called, Min Shu and Min Feng asked Gu Xining to let Qin Sheng come over immediately. Gu Xining said with some grievances, Li Xiang, let's not talk about this first. Do you have time now? My mother and uncle want to talk to you. Of course, Qin Sheng knew what they wanted to talk about. It was nothing more than nothing gained from this trip to the Sea of Bamboos in the south of Bamboos. After all, the trip to the Sea of Bamboos in the south of Bamboos in the south of Bamboos was originally a pretense. How could there be any gains? But the real gains were tonight. Qin Sheng directly refused and said, Cici, I'm afraid I can't go there. Tonight, these friends are very important. Whether the Gu family's affairs can be solved depends on tonight. If you're not willing to go, I can go by myself. You will know the result tomorrow. After hearing that, Gu Xining hesitated. She was in a dilemma and did not know what to do. Qin Sheng continued. If the Gu family's affairs can't be solved tonight, I can promise that from now on, I will not interfere in the Gu family's affairs anymore. I don't have time to care about these things. You can tell your mother and uncle what I said exactly. It is up to them whether they believe it or not. Gu Xining bit her lip and frowned. Min Feng asked impatiently, Cici, what did Li Xiang say? Min Shu also stared at Gu Xining. In the end, Gu Xining had to tell her uncle and mother exactly what Qin Sheng had said. After hearing that, Min Feng thought for a while and made a decision. Okay, then we will trust him again. You go with him tonight. I will wait for your news. Min Shu did not want to give her daughter too much pressure, so she said calmly, Cici, don't think too much. I won't blame Li Xiang. Gu Xining had no choice. She hoped that Li Xiang would not let her down tonight. In the evening, Qin Sheng drove directly to the gate of Gu Xining's community. Gu Xining came back from the company and changed her clothes. It seemed that she had dressed up carefully because she did not want to embarrass Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng drove a Mercedes-Benz S-Series. Lao Chong had parked the car in front of the bookstore early. So when Qin Sheng drove away, An Ning was lost in her imagination again. She thought that her brother Li Xiang was really a sugar daddy, who would not fall when he was surrounded by luxury cars and beautiful women every day. When Gu Xining came out of the gate of the community, she was a little surprised that Qin Sheng was driving a car. However, Gu Xining did not ask much. She thought that Qin Sheng must have borrowed it from a friend. After all, they were going to meet a big shot tonight. Qin Sheng did not want to lose face, but he was too embarrassed to tell her. Qin Sheng stared at Gu Xining and joked, You are so beautiful. I feel a little ashamed standing in front of you. Gu Xining was a little embarrassed. Don't talk nonsense. Let's go quickly. Don't make people wait. Qin Sheng did not say much. When he got in the car, he said, No matter who you see tonight, no matter what happens, don't be afraid and don't make a fuss. I can handle everything. Qin Sheng's words made Gu Xining feel very stressed. She asked with some worry, Who are we going to meet tonight? Qin Sheng said meaningfully, You will know when you see them. It's time to draw a full stop to the Gu family's affairs. Gu Xining was very nervous when she heard his words. Was it really a big shot? Mount Muma Blue Cartier. This was the most luxurious villa area in Mount Muma. The villas inside were easily worth tens of millions, and many of them were luxurious houses worth hundreds of millions. What kind of big shots lived here? Many of the owners of this villa district knew that the most expensive villa in the middle of the district, which faced the lake, belonged to a certain big shot who had once ruled over Sichuan and Chongqing. However, this big shot seemed to have left this place, and someone else was living here. Some of the big shots who were lucky enough to enter this villa were even more aware of who had once lived in this villa, known as Villa Number 6. At the beginning, it was just a woman. However, this woman made many big shots in Sichuan Tremble. It was a pity that this woman went to jail later and had not been released until now, which made people sigh. Of course, what they did not know was that this woman had been released for medical treatment a few years ago. It was just that her freedom had been restricted. After that, the big shot who lived here was even more powerful. He was Master Zhao, who had turned the whole Sichuan and Chongqing upside down. He was also the boss behind the scenes of many big shots in Sichuan. It was a pity that this big shot was also in prison later. After he was released from prison, he completely disappeared. Many people began to wonder if there was something wrong with this villa's feng shui. As for who lived here now, people did not bother to know. It seemed to be the boss of a listed company. In fact, this number 6 villa still belonged to the top figure in Sichuan and Chongqing, Master Zhao. However, he rarely came here after he was released from prison. Usually, it was his wives and children who lived here. After all, it was relatively close to the best private school in Chengdu. However, Master Zhao was more strict with them. Moreover, who knew their identities? Today, Master Zhao returned here after a long time. It was just that he had to show up tonight to support a certain man and clean up the house, who asked some people to leave so fast that they forgot how they started. In fact, it was also because of him, who asked him to disappear for too long. At this moment, a woman with outstanding temperament was standing next to Master Zhao. She was neither Master Zhao's woman nor his confidant. The most important thing was that this woman's aura did not belong to Master Zhao at all, because this woman was called Song Ruyu. It should be known that the big shots that Song Ruyu met every day were the real big shots who stood at the top of the pyramid in this country. Everyone else was just like floating clouds to her. Song Ruyu had planned to go back to Beijing after coming back from the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan. After all, her family had been urging her to go back. She still had a lot of work to hand over. However, a phone call from Qin Sheng made her change her mind, because after this matter was settled tonight, they would be able to return to Beijing together tomorrow. Therefore, she did not mind staying 1 or 2 more days. At this time, Song Ryu looked at the time on her wristwatch and said with a smile, "Brother-in-law, shall we set off?" Master Zhao didn't think too much about it. Perhaps he was just standing there thinking about the ups and downs of the past. After all, he was just an ordinary villager from Mount Chilian. It wasn't easy for him to walk out of that mountain, not to mention standing in his current position before the age of 40. This was already a legend. How much had Master Zhao experienced along the way? Just like that poem, how many things have happened in the past and present, all in a joke? Master Zhao shook his head and laughed at himself. Then let's go. Chapter 1139. Who are you going to kill? Tianfu Avenue. There are many tall buildings here. At the moment, on the top floor of one of the buildings, the 2 bosses of Chuanyu had arrived. From the moment they met, the atmosphere was a bit weird. Both sides were always talking with each other with the smell of gunpowder. On Godfather Ma's side, besides his 2 trusted bodyguards, the only one left was Gu Jiani, who came with him today. On Master Chen's side, only Yu Kai came with him. The rest of the people were standing outside. Today, they came to reconcile. If he brought too many people, it would be too insincere. Moreover, even if they couldn't come to an agreement, what could old Ma do to him? Gu Jiani greeted Master Chen politely when they met, but Master Chen ignored him. He was Godfather Ma's brother or friend, but he was nothing in Master Chen's eyes. Why would Master Chen give him face? Gu Jiani, who was arrogant outside, didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. He could only slander Master Chen in his heart. Maybe he would get in someday. Godfather Ma and Master Chen sat opposite each other, drinking red wine and smoking cigars. The atmosphere seemed harmonious, but everyone knew that they hadn't fought yet. Gu Jiani and Yu Kai could only stand behind them. They weren't qualified to sit here. In the end, old Ma couldn't help but say, "Brother Chen, we don't have to hurt our relationship because of a man who doesn't know his background." Master Chen laughed and said, "Old Ma, what do you mean by hurt our relationship? Don't be so polite. Li Xiang used to follow me, but he disappeared for a while and came back to Chengdu recently. I didn't know that he offended you, so I asked him to come and apologize immediately. Brother Chun, you don't have to be so polite. I know his background very well. He provoked me again and again. Do you think I can tolerate him? Old Ma snorted. Master Chun said half-heartedly, it's just a small matter. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. Who doesn't make mistakes? As long as he knows his mistake, he should change. You should give me face. I've already asked him not to meddle in the Gu family's business. I'll ask him to apologize to you and Jianyi in person later. Then we can write off the past. What do you think? Oma did not lower his head so quickly. He sneered and said, Brother Chun, if you give me face, who will give me face? Old Ma, let's be honest. Li Xiang got involved in the Gu family's matter because he wanted to help his little girlfriend. I won't say much about how Gu Jianyi's brother died. Li Xiang only offended Gu Jianyi at most, but he didn't offend you directly. I believe he still has self-awareness. Master Chen argued. After all, Li Xiang had never targeted Old Ma. It was just that Old Ma had been helping Gu Jianyi all the time. Who could he blame? Old Ma insisted. Everyone knows that old Gu is my brother. Since he dares to meddle in the affairs of the Gu family, how can he not know? Sometimes, people will lose their minds in the face of love, Master Chen laughed. Old Ma said unhurriedly, then you have to pay for your actions. He has already paid the price. He won't be able to come out of South Sichuan alive. You better let him go, Master Chen replied calmly. Gu Jianyi could not get a word in from the beginning to the end. It was not his turn to speak here. However, he could see that Master Chen wanted to protect Li Xiang. He did not know whether Old Ma could bear the pressure or not. When Old Ma heard Master Chen's words, he felt that Master Chen was mocking him. He felt embarrassed and said, Brother Chen, I don't understand what you are saying. Are you questioning my strength? Master Chen took a puff of his cigar and said, Old Ma, how can I question your strength? You're the king of South Sichuan. If you want to deal with Li Xiang, you can do it at any time. Li Xiang is still alive now, but it means that you let him live. Old Ma felt that Master Chen was not here to reconcile today, but to deliberately find fault with him. He smiled and said, I originally wanted to let it go, but now I suddenly changed my mind. I really want to see how powerful Li Xiang is. Old Ma, don't you think it's a joke to fight with a young man to death? Master Chen said, half-jokingly. Old Ma squinted and said, Brother Chen, are you going to protect Li Xiang? Not really. I just feel that I admire this guy. He will have a bright future, Master Chen said lightly. Old Ma stared at Master Chen and said, Brother Chen, are we going to fall out with each other? At this time, Master Chen put down his cigar and laughed out loud. Old Ma, I'm just joking with you. It's just a small matter. Do we need to fall out with each other? I've said what I should say on the phone. I really don't need to do that for a young man. Today, we are here to reconcile. I won't go back on my promise to you. Li Xiang will apologize to you in person and promise not to interfere in the Gu family's affairs anymore. If he can't do that, I don't care what you want to do. Old Ma did not take it seriously. He said disdainfully, Brother Chun, do you have the final say? We have been here for so long, but we haven't even seen him. I really don't know where he gets his confidence from. Is he more arrogant than you and me? Master Chun was also a little surprised. Why hadn't Li Xiang come yet? He casually said a few words to Old Ma and immediately lowered his head to ask Yukai, What is Li Xiang doing? Why hasn't he come yet? I have called him. He is on the way and will be here soon, Yukai said with a headache. At such a critical moment, Li Xiang actually dropped the ball. Master Chun was dissatisfied. Call him again. Yukai had to run out to make the call. Before he reached the main door, he happened to see Qin Sheng walking in slowly with Gu Xining. Yukai said angrily, Li Xiang, why are you so late? Before Qin Sheng replied, Yukai was surprised and said, Li Xiang, what the hell are you doing? Why did you bring a woman? Do you know why you are here today? Qin Sheng just replied lightly. Her name is Gu Xining, Gu Jianyi's niece. Yukai didn't know what to say for a while. At this time, Qin Sheng had walked in with Gu Xining unhurriedly. When Qin Sheng and Gu Xining appeared in front of everyone, Gu Jianyi was the first one who couldn't sit still after seeing Gu Xining. He directly shouted, Cece, why are you here? Gu Xining was also very shocked. She didn't expect that the big shot Li Xiang brought her to meet would have an uncle. She said in surprise, Uncle. Old Ma looked at Master Chun and said, Brother Chun, what do you mean? Master Chun was also confused. He didn't know what was going on. However, he had already known that this girl was Gu Jinni's niece, which meant that she was Li Xiang's girlfriend. Master Chun was a little unhappy. Even if you want to bring Gu Xining here, you should at least communicate with me. Who do you think I am? He frowned and said, Li Xiang, what's wrong with you? Everyone who should be here had arrived. Qin Sheng smiled and walked over with Gu Xining. He moved a chair randomly for Gu Xining to sit down. At the same time, he patted Gu Xining's shoulder to tell her to be nervous. How could Gu Xining not be nervous? She was not stupid. Since her uncle was here, the man sitting in front of him was most likely the legendary Master Ma. Although she hadn't seen Master Ma before, she could guess that it was definitely him. Qin Sheng didn't explain anything. He just said happily, Everyone who should be here is here. Young man, you are a little arrogant. Although it was the first time that Master Ma met Li Xiang, he had seen Li Xiang's photo. However, the way this young man behaved at this moment made him feel very uncomfortable. It seemed that Li Xiang didn't take him seriously at all. Qin Sheng stood behind Gu Xining and replied, Master Ma, how dare I be arrogant in front of you? Didn't you want me to apologize to you? Am I not here today? As expected, after Gu Xining heard Li Xiang's words, her guess was finally confirmed. This made her even more nervous. She understood what Li Xiang wanted to do today. Master Ma sneered and said, At the beginning, when I didn't see you, I thought I could forgive you for Brother Chen's sake. But now I have changed my mind. Master Chun was very dissatisfied with Li Xiang's attitude. He scolded, Li Xiang, what on earth do you want? Apologize to Master Ma now. Master Chun, sorry to trouble you. I will definitely apologize to you. After all, I am here today to apologize, Qin Sheng said with a smile. Master Ma said disapprovingly, No need. Qin Sheng continued, Master Ma, it's up to you whether you need it or not. It's up to me whether I want to apologize or not. I offended Master Ma and made him lose face again and again. I am really sorry. I apologize to you now. Master Ma had been restraining his anger. When he heard Li Xiang's perfunctory and arrogant apology, he was already burning with anger. He said to Master Chun, Brother Chun, what do you mean? Are you kidding me? Li Xiang, are you courting death? Master Chun directly stood up and shouted. Qin Sheng waved his hand and gestured for Master Chun to sit down. His action made everyone present think that Qin Sheng was crazy. At this moment, the atmosphere in the private room was already at daggers drawn. Everyone was staring at Qin Sheng angrily. Everyone could feel their anger at this moment. Gu Xining was so scared that her palms were sweating. She did not dare to breathe loudly. She already knew the identity of the two tycoons present. One was Master Ma, the tycoon behind her uncle, and the other was Master Chun, who was very powerful in Chengdu. She had heard many stories about Master Chun. Qin Sheng said casually, Master Chun, don't be anxious. Let me reason with Master Ma first. I have already apologized to him. Now it's time to talk about what happened between Master Ma and me. Speaking up to this point, Qin Sheng walked towards Master Ma slowly. He stared at Master Ma provocatively and said, Master Ma, Mount Qin Sheng and Sea of Bamboo in South Shu, you tried to kill me twice. How should I settle this? Fortunately, I was lucky enough to escape. Now you should give me an explanation, right? Provocation, a naked provocation. No matter how good Master Ma's temper was, it was time for him to act. He said angrily, Li Xiang, do you really think that I can't kill you? Li Xiang, how dare you? Master Chen shouted. He really couldn't understand this young man. Whatever he said now was equivalent to seeking death. Not only did old Ma want to kill him, but even he wanted to kill Li Xiang as well. Sai, don't be so arrogant. Based on your strength, I really don't take you seriously, Qin Sheng said firmly. Crazy? Li Xiang was really crazy. This was the only thing that Master Chun and Yu Kai could think of at this moment. As for Gu Jinni, he was a little confused at first, but now he was very happy. The more Li Xiang wanted to die, the happier he was. He wanted to see what Li Xiang was going to do. Anyway, Li Xiang was going to die. Master Ma would definitely not let him go. Now, he could only watch the show. Interesting, really interesting. I haven't seen such an interesting person like you for a long time. Master Ma laughed instead of getting angry. At this moment, Qin Sheng had walked very close to Master Ma. He stopped and did not take another step because the two bodyguards behind Master Ma were ready to make a move. Qin Sheng turned to Gu Jiani and said, "Uncle, if you want to laugh, just laugh. You'd better laugh to your heart's content. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to laugh later." Li Xiang, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I used to think that you were quite smart, but now I think that there must be something wrong with your brain. Gu Jiani refuted directly. Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, Uncle, you have to say that there was something wrong with my brain before. But now my brain has recovered. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to do this. Gu Jiani looked at Li Xiang as if he was looking at a dead man. He shook his head helplessly. Qin Sheng continued to provoke. Master Ma, don't forget about us. You have to give me an explanation. Li Xiang, it's very simple. Do you think that you can walk out of this room today? If you can, I will definitely give you an explanation that will definitely satisfy you. Master Ma forced himself to calm down and said. He did not know whether it was Li Xiang's idea or Lao Chen's. But then Lao Chen said, Lao Ma, it's my fault today. Let's talk about it later. But from now on, I won't care about Li Xiang. You could do whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me. Hearing this, Lao Ma was completely relieved. He knew what he should do. Qin Sheng looked at Lao Chen and said, Brother Chen, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but thank you for your help. Lao Chen did not care about Li Xiang anymore. He just let him do whatever he wanted. He continued to ask, Master Ma, give me an explanation. What explanation do you want? Lao Ma was so angry that he laughed. Qin Sheng said seriously, Gu Jiani, you know better than anyone else what happened to the Gu family. Go and turn yourself in. I won't say anything more. Just do what you have to do. As for what happened between us, Master Ma, I will spare your life for the sake of others. But after you went to Mount Qingsheng and the Sea of Bamboos in South Chuan, I will break one of your arms and one of your legs. Is that too much? After hearing what Qin Sheng said, Master Ma could not stand it anymore. He had to let this young man know who the boss of Sichuan and Chongqing was. So he shouted angrily, Take him down. The two bodyguards rushed to Qin Sheng immediately. Seeing that they were about to take action, Qin Sheng said disdainfully, Master Ma, is that all the bosses of Sichuan and Chongqing are capable of? I really don't know how you survived until now. He was crazy. He was really crazy. Lao Chen could not do anything. He did not care about the result. Li Xiang's life or death had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Godfather Ma was completely enraged. He couldn't care less about his reputation because he hadn't been provoked like this for many years. It was like a slap to his face. It seemed like he could only vent his anger by doing it himself. So he stood up, walked to Li Xiang and shouted, I'm going to kill you. At this moment, there was a loud bang. The door of the private room was suddenly kicked open from the outside. A few men and women with strong auras walked in slowly. They saw an ordinary-looking man walking in front. He said in an imposing manner, Ma Chunkai, who are you going to kill? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.